Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Natsu had dual elements. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 7, Natsu Hates Trains. The next day. Natsu, please don't stop. Lucy moaned in her sleep. The blonde's face was colored a ruddy red, and her entire body was hot as she experienced her pleasurable dream. Lucy let a throaty moan as she rubbed her thighs together. But since Lucy was fast asleep, she didn't notice that the dragon slayer she was dreaming about was currently watching her. Natsu and Happy had decided to stop by Lucy's apartment and tell her that she'd be joining them on Urza's mission. But as Natsu neared the celestial spirit mage's apartment, his enhanced hearing picked up the sounds of soft moaning. Curious, Natsu jumped up onto Lucy's windowsill. What Natsu saw and heard caused his whole body to turn red in embarrassment. Lucy was squirming and writhing in her bed as she moaned his name. But what stuck out most to Natsu was the smell that was assaulting his nose. It was very faint, but it was extremely alluring. A shiver ran through Natsu's body as he inhaled the intoxicating scent. The dragon slayer had a fairly good idea what the smell was thanks to the talks he had received from Urza and Mira. As she's dreaming about doing that with me? Natsu thought, as he turned an even deeper shade of red. I kinda thought that Lucy might have a thing for me, but I can't believe she's already thinking about sleeping with me. I know that I've thought about doing things like that with her, but I've also thought about doing things with Urza and Mira as well. I like all three of them equally, and I want all of them to be happy. Ugh, what the hell is going on with me? Natsu, what's Lucy doing? Happy asked innocently. I'll tell you some other time, buddy. Natsu stuttered out, as he tried desperately to fight off his raging blush. Let's just wake Lucy up, and get to the train station. I bet that bastard Gray is already there. Natsu reached out, and gently knocked on Lucy's window. But the blonde merely rolled over, turning her back to Natsu and Happy. So Natsu knocked again, this time a little more forcefully. This woke Lucy up, as she suddenly shot upright in her bed. A faint blush still painted Lucy's face as she stretched. The blonde then yawned and began to rub the sleep out of her eyes. But Lucy's eyes shot open, and all color drained from her face when she saw Natsu and Happy sitting on her windowsill. When Natsu noticed Lucy looking at them, he gave her a weak wave and a nervous smile. Lucy stared at the duo wide-eyed for a moment, before she screamed and ran towards her bathroom. As soon as Lucy entered the bathroom, she slammed the door shut and immediately sunk to the floor. Oh God, how much did he see? That was a really raunchy dream, and I know that I usually talk in my sleep. Lucy thought, as she fisted her blonde hair. Oh shit. What if he could smell me? Lucy squeaked when she spotted the small wet patch on her pajama bottoms. He found me in Harjan, because he picked up my scent. There is no way he didn't smell me. The blonde groaned, and put her face into her hands. This is going to totally ruin our relationship. He's going to think I'm some sex-starved slut or something. Now I have no chance with him. Lucy's thoughts were suddenly cut off when she heard a few soft knocks. Luce? Natsu hesitantly asked. I'm sorry about scaring you a minute ago. Happy and I actually came over to tell you something. Natsu waited a few moments, but there was no reply from the celestial spirit mage. Lucy, you in there? Natsu asked, pressing his ear against the door. How much did you see? Lucy asked quietly. Huh? What are you? Natsu was cut off by an exclamation from Lucy. Don't play dumb. Lucy yelled from behind the door. Now answer me. How much did you see? And not too much. I just got here a few minutes ago. Natsu admitted, as he rubbed the back of his head. But I do know what you were dreaming about. Oh God. Lucy groaned out, as she felt tears sting her eyes. You probably think I'm some kind slut now, don't you? Of course not. Natsu exclaimed immediately. You're an amazing girl, Luce, and you're defiantly not a slut. We all get you urges. Natsu's face immediately turned burned bright red. I know I've had similar thoughts about some of the G-girls in the guild. Really? Lucy asked, as she wiped away a tear that was forming. Why yeah, I've defiantly had a few naughty dreams about some of the girls. Natsu replied in an embarrassed tone. Oh, and which girls do you think about? Lucy asked, as a smirk spread across her face. What? Natsu exclaimed, as a new wave of embarrassment washed over him. Come on, I won't tell anyone. Lucy cooed with a mischievous smile. It's only fair, Natsu. You really embarrassed me back there, now I need a little dirt on you. Gulp if why you really must know, when I have these dreams they're usually with, God I can't believe I'm about to say this, Urza and Mira. Natsu admitted after a moment of hesitation. What about me? Lucy asked with renewed confidence, as she opened the door slightly. Do you ever think about me like that? USC. Natsu began to stutter uncontrollably, as he started to break out in a nervous sweat. Lucy smirked and fully opened the door, causing Natsu to take a step back. Well, Natsu, do you ever have naughty thoughts about me? Lucy asked in a sultry tone, as she slowly walked up to the stuttering dragon slayer. I guess I have. Natsu said just as Lucy wrapped her arms around his neck. Natsu? Lucy asked, her face inches away from the dragon slayer's. Her full breasts pressing against his chest, and her fingers tangling in his hair. Why yeah, Luce? Natsu replied, his face burning bright red. Kiss me. Natsu. Ha! What's wrong? Natsu exclaimed, his hands coated in flames. You spaced out for a minute there. Happy said, as he flew next to the dragon slayer. It was really weird. You were just staring ahead with this blank look, while we walked to Lucy's apartment. Really? Natsu asked with a nervous chuckle. Sorry about that, Happy. My mind must have wandered off. What were you thinking about, Natsu? Your face was really red. Happy asked innocently, nearly causing Natsu to choke on his own breath. It was nothing important, Happy. Natsu replied just as Lucy's apartment came into view. The dragon slayer's face burned bright red, as images of his daydream played back in his mind. Suddenly Lucy's apartment came into view, but this time Natsu didn't hear anything as he approached the blonde's apartment. Taking a deep breath, the dragon slayer jumped up onto Lucy's windowsill. This time Natsu spotted Lucy sleeping in her bed peacefully. However, the alluring smell from Natsu's daydream suddenly hit him. The intoxicating smell sent a shiver throughout his body, just like in his dream. Natsu's face burned bright red, as he let out a groan of pleasure. You okay, Natsu? Because you're acting kinda weird. Happy asked, as he floated next to the dragon slayer. I'm fine, buddy, let's just wake Lucy up so we can tell her about the mission. Natsu said, as he knocked on Lucy's window. Maybe she does think about me like that. Natsu thought, tapping on Lucy's window again. I'll have to talk to her later about it. I'll have to talk to all three of them eventually. Natsu stopped his knocking when he saw Lucy begin to stir. The blonde yawned, as she sat up in her bed. As Lucy stretched, she spotted Natsu and Happy outside her window. Lucy squeaked in surprise, as she instinctively covered herself with her blanket. The celestial spirit mage had a slight blush across her face, as she clutched the blanket close to her chest. But when she saw Natsu and Happy smiling at her, she sighed and opened her window. What do you two want? Lucy asked, letting Natsu and Happy into her home. We came by to tell you something. Happy replied, as he sat on the table in Lucy's kitchen. Taking the hint, Lucy walked into the kitchen and began to make breakfast for the three of them. Natsu followed Lucy, and began to get cooking supplies out for her. Once everything was out, the Dragon Slayer took a seat at the table. "So what did you guys want to tell me?" Lucy asked, as she put some spices into the egg she was making. The blonde knew that Natsu loved spicy food, so she made sure to add extra spices into his portion. "You're coming with us on Urza's mission," Natsu answered, as Lucy handed him his plate. "Why am I going?" Lucy asked in a confused tone, as she sat across from Natsu. "Well, you're a part of the team, right?" Natsu replied, taking a bite of his food. "Wow, this is pretty good," Natsu said, as he took another bite of his eggs. "I already asked Urza, and she's okay with you going. It's always more fun when we're all together. But if you don't want to go, I'll understand." No, I want to go," Lucy said with a smile, eating a forkful of food. "Like you said, we're teammates. What kind of teammate would I be if I missed our first mission as a full team? Plus, this is a great chance for me to get to know Urza better." "That's great to hear, Luce," Natsu said with a toothy grin. "We'll head to the train station as soon as we finish eating." "Okay, let me just get changed first," Lucy said, as she pushed her empty plate forward. "Sounds good, Luce," Natsu said, cleaning of his plate. "Happy and I will head out front. When you're ready, we'll head off." With a quick wave, Natsu jumped out the open window and landed in front of Lucy's apartment. As soon as the Dragon Slayer left her apartment, Lucy let out a deep sigh. The celestial spirit mage slowly made her way into her bedroom and began to strip out of her pajamas. As Lucy took off her pajama bottoms, she groaned in annoyance when she spotted the wet spot in her panties. "Damn it, I had another one of those dreams about Natsu again. It seems like I have one every night now." Luckily, he didn't seem to notice. I don't know what I would do if he had found out. 5 minutes later. Lucy emerged from apartment a few minutes later dressed in an orange and yellow blouse with a short blue skirt. She quickly spotted Natsu and Happy waiting for her just outside her apartment. "Ready to go?" Natsu asked, as Lucy walked up. "Yep. Let's get going," Lucy said enthusiastically, as the trio made their way towards Magnolia's train station. Along the way, Natsu and Lucy talked about various things, with Happy chiming in every now and then. But something had been bothering Lucy. She knew that Urza and Natsu had gone somewhere last night, but it bothered her that she didn't know what they had done. "Natsu, what did you and Urza do last night?" Lucy asked suddenly. The question caught the Dragon Slayer off guard, as he blinked at Lucy a few times before he answered. "Oh, we didn't do too much. She treated me to dinner, then she came back to my place for a bit," Natsu replied with a shrug. What did you do at your place?" Lucy asked, a sudden sense of jealousy filling her. "Same thing we did during dinner, we just talked the whole time. It was nice to catch up after not seeing each other for over a week," Natsu answered with a small smile. "I really missed her." "So all you did was talk, nothing else?" Lucy asked with a skeptical tone. "Yep, we just talked for a few hours, then Urza went home to get ready for the mission," Natsu replied, as the train station came into view. "There's the station, I bet that asshole Gray is already there." "Why do you hate Gray so much?" Lucy asked, raising an eyebrow. "Too many reasons to list," Natsu grumbled out, as the trio stepped into Magnolia's train station. Sure enough, Natsu was right. Waiting for them when they entered the station was Gray Fullbuster. The ice user immediately started to glare at Natsu as soon as he spotted him. Without missing a beat, Gray stormed over and butted heads with Natsu. "Where the hell have you been, Flame Brain? I've been waiting for a half hour," Gray asked, annoyance evident in his tone. "I was getting Lucy, got a problem with that, you stupid popsicle," Natsu answered with a slight growl. "Lucy?" Gray asked in a confused tone. The ice mage looked past Natsu and spotted Lucy standing sheepishly off to the side. "And why is she coming with us?" "She's a part of me and Urza's team, so she'll be joining us on this mission. Lucy is a very capable mage, and will be a great help on this job." Natsu defended Lucy, causing a slight blush to spread across the blonde's face. TCH, whatever you say. Why did Urza even invite you? I'm more than enough help for whatever mission she wants us to go on. Gray said, crossing his arms over his chest. Is there ice clogging your fucking brain? Urza and I have been a team for over 7 years, of course she'd invite me on this mission. Natsu said, once again butting heads with Gray. If you wanna pussy out and not come, I'll gladly let Urza kill you when we get back. What the hell did you just say, you hot-headed jackass? Gray exclaimed, grabbing Natsu by his vest. Oh, you want to go, you frozen piece of shit? Natsu shot back, fists clenching Gray's jacket. Both of you chill the fuck out. Lucy yelled, as she stomped her foot. You're both causing nothing but trouble. Sigh, I wish you two could just get along for 5 minutes. Lucy huffed, as she crossed her arms underneath her chest. Sorry, Luce, Natsu said as he scratched the back of his head. Luce? How cute, you already have a pet name for her. Gray said with a smug smirk. It's not a pet name. It's a nickname, and Lucy happens to like it. Natsu exclaimed, as he went back to butting heads with Gray. So why don't you mind your own damn business, you shit-flavored popsicle? I'll do whatever I damn well please. Gray said, glaring at Natsu. Hey, you pink-haired douchebag, why do you carry that sleeping bag with you everywhere? It was given to me by a friend 7 years ago, and I use it to sleep in, you idiot. Natsu said, placing a hand on the sleeping bag on top of his pack. Sigh, this is getting way out of hand. Lucy said, pinching the bridge of her nose. Just then a thought popped into Lucy's head, and a mischievous smile spread across her face. Ah! Urza-san, we're right over here. Let's get along, buddy. Gray said, as he immediately wrapped his arm around Natsu's neck, and a large smile was plastered on his face. But when Gray turned to face where Urza was supposed to be coming from, he only saw a giggling Lucy. Gray turned his head to see Natsu giggling as well. That was too funny. Lucy exclaimed, as she bent over and burst out laughing. You tricked me! Gray yelled, as his eyes widened. Man your way to easy to fool ice for brain. Natsu said with a wide grin. How did you know that Urza wasn't here? Gray asked with a frown. I can sorta sense when Urza is nearby. We've been together for so long, that I can tell when she's close by. Natsu said with a shrug, crossing his arms over his chest. Great, it wasn't bad enough that I had to go on this mission with that flame-brained idiot, but now I have to go with some chick that I barely know. Gray complained, as he put a hand over his stomach. I already feel sick. Want some fish, Gray? Happy asked, pulling a fish out of his green pack. No! Gray exclaimed in an annoyed tone. But Gray froze stiff when he heard a voice speak up behind him. Sorry that I'm late, you guys. Urza said, as she pulled a massive cart full of luggage behind her. Wow, that's way too much luggage. Lucy exclaimed, as she gazed wide-eyed at Urza's numerous bags. Ah, Lucy, it's great to see you. Urza said with a smile. After what Natsu has told me about you, you should be a great addition on this mission. But I must warn you that job will be rather risky. Are risky? Lucy parroted in a worried tone. Urza, before we go I have one request. Natsu said, getting the redhead's attention. Yes, Natsu, what is it? Urza asked sweetly, as she walked up to the Dragon Slayer. When we get back I want to fight you again. Natsu said straight-faced without a hint worry. I've grown much stronger since our last fight, and I think that I might be able to beat you now. You idiot! Do you have some kind of death wish or something? Gray hissed, his eyes wide in shock. Well, you've definitely grown stronger since our last bout, I'll give you that. Urza said with a small smile, as she brushed a few scarlet locks out of her face. Although I'm not so certain in my abilities, I accept your challenge, Natsu. It would be a pleasure to fight you again. Urza, if we're gonna fight, I want you to be 100% confident in yourself. This has to be a serious fight. Natsu said, crossing his arms over his chest. It wouldn't feel right if you weren't giving it your all. Oh, I know, Natsu, don't worry. Urza reassured the Dragon Slayer. But you're quite strong, and I just wanted to let you know that. Urza then turned to look at Gray. Gray, do you want to fight me as well? Fuck no. Gray exclaimed, as he waved his arms frantically. I rather like having all my bones intact. Yeah. Let's get this show on the road. Natsu roared, as he sprinted towards their train. Lightning surged of Natsu's body, as he ran past scared pedestrians. *sigh*, man, he is such a hothead. Lucy said, as she rubbed her temples. Yes, he is, but I think that's one of his admirable traits. Urza said with a smile, as she followed after the Dragon Slayer. Come on everyone, let's get going. Ha ha ha. Hurry up you slowpokes. Natsu yelled out the train's window. I'm all fired up. Someone please kill me. Natsu moaned weakly, as he sunk into his seat. Sweat poured off the Dragon Slayer's body, as his stomach churned. Man, you're pathetic. Gray said with an annoyed huff. Go sit somewhere else if you're gonna be annoying. Even better, get off the train and run alongside it. If I wasn't in extreme pain right now, I'd kick the shit out of you, Gray. Natsu said in a weak voice, as he glared at Gray. I know this happens all the time, but that still looks painful. Lucy said, giving Natsu a sympathetic look. Natsu, why don't you lay dash? I guess there's no other way. Urza said, cutting Lucy off. The scarlet-haired woman smiled at Natsu, and patted the seat next to her. Come sit next to me, Natsu. I guess I have to move. Lucy thought, as she shot Urza a quick glare. Lucy's glare wasn't missed by Urza. The knight merely smirked at Lucy, as Natsu sat next to her. TCH, she did that on purpose. Lay your head down, Natsu. Urza said sweetly, earning a smile from Natsu. Thanks, Urza. Natsu said, laying his head down on Urza's lap. Ugh, stupid motion sickness. Sure, just relax and get some rest, Natsu. Urza said barely above a whisper, as she ran her fingers through Natsu's pink locks. The Dragon Slayer smiled, as his eyes slowly closed. Just close your eyes, and we'll be there in no time. Wow, she's like a completely different person when she's with Natsu. Lucy thought, as she watched Urza smile down at Natsu. It's actually really sweet the way they act around each other. It almost makes me want to just let her have him, but I can't and won't ignore my own feelings. I just wish there was a way for all of us to be happy. The group sat in silence for a while, with Natsu sleeping soundly in Urza's lap. Gray and Happy stared out the window, Lucy organized the things in her pack, and Urza continued to comb her fingers through Natsu's hair. When Lucy finished sorting out her bag, she decided to break the silence. Now that I think about it, I've never seen any other magic besides Natsu's at Fairy Tale. Lucy said, turning her head to look at Urza. What kind of magic do you use, Urza-san? Please just call me Urza, we're on the same team, Lucy. So there's no need for formalities. Urza said, smiling at Lucy. To answer your question, I use re-equip magic. It allows me to change my weapons and armor almost instantaneously. Wow, that sounds awesome. Lucy exclaimed with wide eyes. Yeah, Urza's magic is so pretty. Lots of her opponent's blood came out in the end. Happy said, making Lucy sweat drop. How is that supposed to be pretty? Lucy asked with a disgusted look. My magic is nothing special. Urza said, turning to face Gray. Actually, I think Gray's magic is very beautiful. It is? Gray asked, raising an eyebrow. What type of magic do you use, Gray? Lucy asked, giving Gray her full attention. Humph. Gray grunted, as he punched his palm. The air around Gray's hands began to chill. Suddenly a small fairy tale symbol made out of ice materialized in Gray's hand. I'm an ice mage. Wah! That's so cool! Lucy exclaimed, her eyes wide in awe. Suddenly realization struck Lucy and she gasped. That's why you and Natsu don't get along. Fire and ice, you two are so straightforward it's actually kinda cute. Who cares about that? Gray said with a flustered look. Anyway, let's get ready. Urza, what's going on exactly? You asking for anybody but Natsu's help doesn't happen very often. Yeah, let me explain, Urza said, as she closed her eyes. I was on my way back from my last mission, when I stopped by a bar in Anabus, where mages tend to gather. Some mages there happened to catch my attention. Flashback 3 days ago. Man, that was a boring mission. It would have been more enjoyable if Natsu had been there. Urza said quietly to herself, as she nursed her drink. The re-equipped mage was seated at a table near the back of the bar. Rah! Where the hell are my booze? A voice yelled from across the bar. Urza turned her head and spotted a table with 4 mages on the other side of the bar. One of the mages appeared to be hassling with one of the bar waitresses. Oi! Why the hell are you slow? One of the mages yelled, as he waved his empty mug. The mage had his feet kicked up on the table, and he seemed to have whiskers on his face. I am sorry, I'll be right back with your drink. The waitress said in a shaky voice, before she ran back to the bar to fetch the drinks. Bayard, don't get so upset. Another mage wearing a black and yellow hood chastised, as he leaned back in his chair. How can I not be pissed off about this? Bayard exclaimed, as he slammed his mug onto the table. We finally found the hidden lullaby, but it was all sealed up. How'd that even happen? We have no way of breaking the seal. Idiot. You're being too fucking loud. The hooded mage hissed. Shit. Bayard said, as his eyes shifted across the bar. It's not like we can break the seal, even with more people. A mage with a dark-haired ponytail said. I'll take care of this, so you guys head back to the guild. Just let Aragorn-san know. The mage said with a smile. I will definitely be back with Lullaby in 3 days. For real? Did you figure out how to break the seal? Bayard said with wide eyes. Oh. Great work, Kageyama. The hooded mage exclaimed with a smirk. Back to the present. Lullaby? Gray said, as he rubbed his chin. Lullaby, is it some sort of magic that puts people to sleep? Lucy suggested, turning to look at Urza. I don't know, but since it's sealed, it probably contains a very powerful magic. Urza replied, as she looked at the floor. Wait, I don't get it. Gray said, leaning forward in his seat. So you came across some mages that wanted to break the seal off some unknown magic, maybe it was just for a job they were doing. That's what I thought at first. Urza said, as her eyes darkened. That is, until I remembered the name Aragorn. The strongest mage in the guild Eisenwald, Aragorn the Shinigami. Shinigami? Lucy parroted, as a shiver ran down her spine. He received that nickname because he only takes assassination requests. Urza explained, causing Lucy to gulp in fear. The council forbids mages from taking assassination jobs, but Eisenwald chose money over following the rules. The train began to slow down, as it pulled into Anabus station. 6 years ago Eisenwald was ousted from the Guild League, and was labeled a Dark Guild. Dark Guild? Lucy whispered, as she began to sweat in fear. Wait, you said they were ousted, but did Eisenwald receive any punishment? Lucy asked Urza, as they started to get off the train. They were. Eisenwald's master was arrested, and the guild was ordered to disband. Urza answered, pulling her cart of luggage off the train. Though most dark guilds keep function regardless and ignore the council's orders. And maybe I should head back after all. Lucy said as fear filled her body. It was a blunder on my part. If I had remembered the name Aragorn back at the bar, I would have slain them all. Urza in a menacing tone, as her gaze darkened. Right, if it was just the mages at the bar you could probably have handled them all yourself, Urza. Gray said, putting his hands in his pockets. But when it's an entire guild? Gray started to trail off near the end. They have an ancient magic called Lullaby and are planning something. We cannot overlook this any longer, Urza said, as she turned to face Gray and Lucy. We'll march to Eisenwald and take them down ourselves. I like the sound of that, Gray said with a smirk. I really should have stayed home, Lucy groaned, as she trudged after Gray and Urza. Do you even know where Eisenwald is, Urza? That's why we came to this town, to find that out, Urza said, turning to look at Lucy. When Urza looked at Lucy, something seemed off to her. The re-equipped mage studied the blonde for a moment. Lucy noticed Urza staring and raised an eyebrow. What's wrong? Sudden realization struck Lucy and Urza simultaneously. Natsu's not here, Urza and Lucy yelled, as they both started running back towards the train station, with a disgruntled Gray and a giggling Happy following closely behind. When the group got back to the train station, they were surprised to see that the train had already departed. Urza grit her teeth and clenched her fists. Damn it! I was too focused on explaining the situation, and I forgot to grab Natsu when we left the train. He's terrible with transportation too, so he's probably half dead on that train. Urza closed her eyes and turned to Lucy. It's all my fault. Lucy, please hit me. Whoa, calm down, Urza, Lucy said, as she held up her hands. Even though I really would like to smack you for forgetting Natsu on a damn train. Urza grunted and began to scan the train platform. She quickly spotted a conductor and stormed over to him. She grabbed the man by the collar and frantically began to explain the situation to him. So that's what's going on. I need you to stop that train, Urza exclaimed, as she released the conductor. Please understand, it's for one of our nakama. Stop talking nonsense. I can't stop the train just because one person forgot to get off, the conductor yelled, as he dusted himself off. Urza glared at the conductor, causing the man to flinch under her harsh gaze. The red-haired mage tore her gaze from the conductor, and spotted an emergency stop switch on the wall behind him. Acting quickly, Urza grabbed the conductor and headbutted him. The conductor fell to the ground in an unconscious heap. Urza stepped over the unconscious conductor and pulled the emergency stop switch. Alarms went off and lights flashed throughout the station. The other people in the station looked around either in fear or confusion. Come on, let's go after Natsu, Urza said, turning to a group of people behind her. Excuse me, but could you please deliver this to Hotel Chile? Urza asked, as she handed over her cart full of luggage. Thanks. Who are you? One of the people asked, but Urza had already left. Wow, that went downhill fast, Lucy commented, releasing a deep sigh. Indeed, Gray said, as he walked up next to Lucy. Gray, your fucking clothes are gone again, Lucy said, as she pinched the bridge of her nose. Back on the train. Groan why the fuck am I still on this thing? Natsu moaned weakly, as he sat slumped in his seat. Where did everyone else go? Urza? Lucy? Hell, I'll even take Gray. Excuse me, sir, but is this seat taken? Natsu slowly raised his head to see a man with dark hair done up in a spiky ponytail, smiling down at him. The Dragon Slayer didn't say anything, but he managed to weakly gesture to the seat across from him. The dark-haired man let out a content sigh as he sunk into the seat across from Natsu. After a few moments, the newcomer leaned forward and began to examine Natsu. The Dragon Slayer continued to groan in pain as sweat poured off his body. When the man spotted the fairy tale mark on Natsu's arm, he let out an impressed whistle. My, you seem to be in pain. Are you okay? I'm Kageyama, and who might you be? Natsu managed to moan weakly in response. Kageyama clasped his hands and smiled at Natsu. Fairy tale. A regular guild, huh? I envy you, Kageyama said with a sickly sweet smile. Speaking of fairy tale, Mira Jane is pretty famous, isn't she? I always see her in magazines, and she's always so beautiful. Natsu managed to lift his head and leveled a harsh glare at Kageyama. I wonder why she's not an active mage anymore, she's still so young. Natsu unconsciously clenched his fists, as his breathing started to become ragged. And I don't know her name, but I heard the new girl's pretty hot. Do you know her? A throaty growl escaped Natsu's throat, as he felt electricity begin to surge through his body. I've noticed that normal guild have lots of pretty girls. I envy that about you, because there's no girls in my guild. Would you please share some of your girls? That was the last straw for Natsu. He was ready to beat the shit out of this guy. But before Natsu could make a move, he received a fierce kick to the face. Don't give me the silent treatment, you little shit. That's discriminatory to dark guilds. Ha! Natsu said, as he pushed the Kageyama's foot out of his face. Oh. So you finally talk. Kageyama said with a menacing grin. Gee, get your fucking foot out of my face. Natsu said weakly, as he continued to glare at the dark-haired man. Excuse me, you're gonna have to speak up because I can't understand you. Kageyama said, as he cupped a hand over his ear. Fairy Tail has been getting a lot of attention lately. You know, stuck-up people like that really annoy me. Do you know what he call Fairy Tail? We call you all flies? Fly swatting. Kageyama smacked Natsu upside the head, causing the Dragon Slayer to snap. The pink-haired mage rose from his seat and bared his teeth at Kageyama. Oh, are you gonna do something, punk? Rah! Natsu roared, as electricity sparked to life around his hands. The Dragon Slayer cocked his fist back, but before he could punch the man across from him, the train started to go downhill. The electricity around Natsu's hands quickly died, as he sunk back into his seat. Ha ha ha! What the fuck was that? Kageyama laughed, smacking his knee. When Kageyama stopped laughing, he shot Natsu an evil grin. You have to use magic like this. Several tendrils made of shadows shot out of the Kageyama's own shadow. Suddenly the shadow shot out of the ground and hit Natsu with a powerful uppercut. Ha 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 ha! The Kageyama laughed, as Natsu fell to the floor. Suddenly a loud screeching sound echoed throughout the train, as Natsu and Kageyama shot forward. After a few moments the train came to a complete stop. Kageyama groaned in pain, as he pushed himself off the ground. But Kageyama's eyes widened when he saw that his pack was open, and its contents were scattered on the floor. It stopped. Natsu said, as he forced himself to his feet. But something sticking out of Kageyama's bag caught the Dragon Slayer's attention. The object was a wooden flute with a three-eyed skull at the top. Shit, you saw it! Kageyama said, as he began to sweat. Shut up! Natsu roared, as electricity coursed around his body. Thanks so much for earlier. Natsu cocked his fist back, and coated it with powerful lightning. It's payback time, motherfucker. Lightning Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu hit Kageyama with an electrically charged right hook. The dark mage was sent flying across the train car, and into the next car. Kageyama spit out some blood, as he struggled to get to his fist. When Kageyama managed to get on his feet, he spotted Natsu glaring at him. Who's the fly now, you bastard? Natsu exclaimed with a grin, as he cracked his knuckles. Why, you son of a bitch? Kageyama rasped out, as blood freely flowed from his nose. Suddenly the intercoms on the train came to life. We've confirmed that the emergency brake was due to a false report. We'll be departing shortly. We thank you for your patience. Fuck that, I'm outta here. Natsu screamed, as he ran and grabbed his bags. I won't let you get away. Kageyama yelled, hobbling back into the car Natsu was in. You picked a fight with Eisenwald. Don't think you can get away with that, you pathetic fly. The same goes for you. I know your ugly mug now. Natsu exclaimed, veins bulging on his head. The Dragon Slayer clenched his teeth and snarled at Kageyama. Making fun of Fairy Tail and threatening Mira and Lucy. I'll fight you outside next. Natsu quickly covered his mouth as the train started to move again. Before his motion sickness could incapacitate him, Natsu jumped out the train's window. But to Natsu's complete surprise, there was a magic four-wheeler tailing the train. As Natsu flew closer to the magic four-wheeler, his eyes widened when he saw that Urza was driving it. Urza, ah-I-E-ah! Natsu yelled, as he flew closer to the magical vehicle. Natsu! Urza exclaimed, as her eyes widened. The knight quickly veered the magic four-wheeler closer to Natsu. Why the fuck did you fly out of the train? Gray yelled, climbing on top of the four-wheeler. What's going holy shit is that Natsu? Lucy yelled, as she leaned out the four-wheeler's window. Gray's eyes widened as Natsu headed straight for him at high speed. Before the Ice Mage even had a chance to react, the Dragon Slayer collided with him. Both mages crashed together head first, and were sent flying off the magic four-wheeler. Natsu! Are you alright? Urza exclaimed, as she slammed on the brakes. Why yeah, I'm good. Natsu said, rubbing the lump on his forehead. I'm fine too, thanks for asking. Gray said, as he dusted himself off. God damn it, Natsu. What were you thinking, you flaming bastard? I seem to have lost some of my memory due to the shock just now. Natsu said, quirking an eyebrow. Who the hell are you? And why do you smell like shit? Why you? Gray roared, grabbing Natsu by his scarf. Gray! Keep your hands off Natsu! Urza's menacing voice echoed out, as she stepped off the magical four-wheeler. Natsu, we're so sorry! Happy exclaimed, landing on Natsu's head. Happy! Lucy! Urza! How could you forget me? Especially you, Urza. I thought we were best friends. Natsu whined, as anime tears poured from his eyes. I'm so sorry, Natsu, I was careless. Urza said, hanging her head. Please hit me as punishment. Sorry, Natsu, I'll make it up to you later. Lucy said with a nervous smile. Anyway, I'm glad you're safe. Urza said, as she pulled Natsu in for a hug. Natsu was surprised when he felt a few tears drop onto the back of his vest. I was so worried that you'd get hurt. I don't know what I'd do if something had happened to you. Hey, I'm fine, Urza. Natsu reassured the knight, as he patted her armored back. Urza smiled and nodded, as she wiped the tears out of her left eye. Why does she get to hug Natsu? I want to hug him too. Lucy thought, as gave Urza a jealous look. As if sensing her thoughts, Lucy soon felt Natsu's strong arms wrapped around her. She looked up to see Natsu grinning at her. Lucy smiled back, and wrapped her arms around Natsu as well. You look like you needed a hug too. Natsu said with a light chuckle. I'm just glad that you're safe, Natsu. Lucy said with a content sigh, as the Dragon Slayer released her. Geez, why does Flame Brain get all the girls? Gray muttered to himself. You guys missed it. Some weirdo on the train tried to pick a fight with me. Natsu said, causing Urza's eyes to widen. Was this someone from Eisenwald? Urza asked, earning a nod from Natsu. The red-haired mage walked up to Natsu, and placed her hands on his shoulders. Natsu, Eisenwald is the dark guild we're going after. Really? That's the first I'm hearing about this. Natsu said, scratching his chin. You said he was on the train earlier, right? We have to chase after him. Urza said, placing the magical four-wheeler's SE plug onto her arm. Do you remember what he looked like? Not really, there wasn't anything special about him. Natsu said before he snapped his fingers. But he was carrying a flute with a three-eyed skull at the end of it. What? That's fucking weird. Gray commented, as he walked back to the four-wheeler. A flute with a three-eyed skull. Lucy said, as she began to shake in fear. What's up, Lucy? Happy asked, flying up to the blonde. No. It can't be, it's just a made-up story, but if that flute is the curse song, lullaby, sleep, death. Lucy said, clenching her fists. That flute is lullaby. Lullaby, the magic of death. What? Urza exclaimed, her eyes widening. A cursed song? Gray parroted with a raised eyebrow. I've only read about it in a book, But among forbidden magic, there is such a thing as murder by curse, right? Lucy asked Urza. Yeah, just like the name says, it'll curse the target and cast death. It's a black magic. Urza answered, making Lucy's eyes harden. Lullaby is far worse than that. Lucy said, making everyone gasp in shock. Konugi Station. Patrons at the Konugi train station ran in fear from a group mages that had marched into the train station. The group of dark mages was led by none other than Aragorn the Shinigami. Get all these pests and the driver of the train. Aragorn commanded, resting his massive scythe on his shoulder. Eisenwald is taking this station over. Aragorn walked onto the train, and spotted Kageyama sitting on one of the seats. I heard that you were coming back on this train, so we've been waiting for you, Kageyama. I managed to break the seal, hee. Kageyama said with a grin, as he pulled Lullaby out of his pack. This is it, Aragorn. I see. Aragorn said, grabbing Lullaby out of Kageyama's hand. This is it, the forbidden magic, Lullaby. Yeah. The other Eisenwald members let out a loud cheer. Great work, Kageyama. Bayard complimented with a smirk. Don't you think, Rayul? Yes indeed, now our plan is complete. Rayul said, as he adjusted his stripped hood. The flute was just a tool for murder by curse at first. Kageyama explained, getting everyone's attention. But the dark mage, Zirith, further developed this flute into something much worse and far more powerful. Indeed, he created such an evil thing. Aragorn said with an evil smirk. Mass curse murder magic, Lullaby. Aragorn had a magical grin, as he tapped the magical flute in his hands. It puts a curse on everyone that hears its melody. Let's get this show rolling, boys. Further down the track, Urza's magic four-wheeler raced towards Konugi Station. Gray held onto of the magical vehicle, while Natsu and Lucy sat inside. Urza was pumping a large amount of her magical energy into the vehicle, so it could go its top speed. The scenery raced by, as the four-wheeler flew down the tracks. Mass curse murder magic. Urza said to herself, clenching her teeth in anger. If Aragorn got a hold of such a thing, bastards. What are they planning to do? Chapter 8, Rumble at Ashibana Station. 10 minutes later, Konugi Station. Urza's magic four-wheeler slowly came to a stop just outside Konugi Station. The magical vehicle came to a stop behind a fence on the other side of the tracks. From where they were, the fairy tale mages could overhear the commotion happening in the station. A bunch of crazy people carrying weapons stormed onto the train. An elderly passenger explained to a royal army guard. I know who those people are. Another passenger exclaimed. They're from a nearby dark guild. Lucy couldn't believe what she was hearing, as she leaned out the four-wheeler's window. They took over a train? Lucy said in disbelief, as she sat back in the four-wheeler. She then placed Natsu's head back into her lap, running her fingers through his hair. I can understand a horse-drawn carriage or a boat, but a train. It doesn't seem very beneficial since it can only run its rails. Happy said, rubbing his chin. But a train has speed on its side. Gray said, as he began to take of his clothes. Maybe they're in a hurry to carry out what they're planning? Gray, for the love of God, keep your clothes on. Lucy groaned, as she pinched the bridge of her nose. Do you think the military will be able to help at all, Urza? I hope so. Urza said, glaring at the tracks that lay ahead. But I've got a real bad feeling about what's ahead. Further up the tracks, the Eisenwald mages were preparing for the next stage of their plan. While the other dark mages made preparations, Kageyama was explaining what had happened to him to Aragorn. Flies, you say? Aragorn asked, scratching his head with Lullaby. It was some pink-haired bastard on the train a minute ago. Kageyama explained, as he rubbed his sore jaw. But you don't have to worry. That brat was nothing but a joke. Aragorn ground his teeth, as his left eye twitched. Suddenly 2 blades of wind shot forward, and slashed the end of Kageyama's ears. Kageyama howled in pain, clutching his bleeding ears. Aragorn leaned forward and glared at Kageyama. "Don't tell me he found out about Lullaby," Aragorn said in a low tone. "Even if he did, no one would be able to stop our plans," Kageyama said through the piercing pain in his ears. "Of course," Aragorn said, his eyes darkening. "But we cannot have anyone getting in our way. Do I make myself clear?" Aragorn began to twirl Lullaby between his fingers. After a moment he stopped, and pointed the demonic flute at the other Eisenwald mages. "Flies, huh? This is one forest they really should be flying in." A few miles behind the train, Urza's magical four-wheeler was speeding through the town of Kunugi at a blistering speed. Gray had to hold onto the vehicle's roof for dear life, as Urza swerved and weaved around corners. The Ice Mage's eyes widened when he saw the SE plug attached to Urza's arm start to inflate. "Urza, slow the fuck down!" Gray screamed, as Urza made a particular tight turn. "That SE plug is really starting to inflate. If Aragorn plays that flute, a lot of people will die," Urza exclaimed over the roar of the four-wheeler's engine. "Human lives are in stake right now." "I know that, but right now we have no idea what they're planning," Gray argued, as he ducked under some flying debris. "You should slow down, because we will likely end up having to fight those bastards." "I don't care," Urza said, as the four-wheeler started to go even faster. The vehicle had cleared the city limits, and was now racing towards the next town. "If it comes down to it, I'll use a stick to fight." The knight then turned her head to look up at Gray. "Besides, I still have you guys with me. That's why I brought you with me in Natsu. Plus, with what Natsu has told me, Lucy should be able to help us fight as well." "Urza!" Natsu's voice rang out from inside the carriage. "Yeah, Natsu," Urza called out, turning to look into the four-wheeler's carriage. She saw that the Dragon Slayer was laying in Lucy's lap. The celestial spirit mage seemed to doing her best to calm the Dragon Slayer's motion sickness. But despite her efforts, Natsu still looked rather green. I know that you're worried about what Aragorn and Eisenwald are planning, but please take it easy," Natsu weakly said, his eyes meeting Urza's. "We don't need you collapsing from exhaustion before we even get there." Urza saw the worry in Natsu's eyes. With a sigh, Urza slowed the amount of magic she was pumping into the SE plug. The four-wheeler slowed down, but was still keeping up a good pace. "Thank you," Natsu said, flashing Urza a weak smile. "TCH, you're a sucker when it comes to flame brain," Gray commented, but as soon as the words left his mouth, a chill ran down his spine. "You want me to come up there and show you what I do to people who call me a sucker?" Urza said in a menacing voice, her eyes narrowed dangerously at the ice user. "No. I am sorry," Gray yelled, as he waved his arms frantically. "Good, that's what I thought," Urza said, turning back forward. "Lucy, keep Natsu healthy back there," Urza said, as the train's next stop came into view. "It looks like things might get rough pretty soon, and we're gonna need him to be in fighting shape." "Sure thing, Urza," Lucy said, as she returned to running her fingers through Natsu's hair. "Don't worry, Natsu, we'll be there soon enough." The Dragon Slayer groaned and buried his head into Lucy's thighs. "Thank you, Luce," Natsu said, his voice muffled by Lucy's thighs. This would normally cause Lucy to blush madly, but she was starting to get used to the Dragon Slayer's antics. Instead of blushing, a small smile spread across Lucy's face. "Lucy, I think I had something to tell you," Happy said, scratching his head in confusion. "But I can't remember what it is." "What is it, Happy?" Lucy asked, quirking an eyebrow. "I just told you, I can't remember," Happy said, his brow furrowing. "Well, you're making me curious, so try and remember," Lucy said, as Happy began to rub his chin. "Oh man, I don't feel good," Natsu exclaimed, as he shot out of Lucy's lap and leaned out the window. "Not feeling good," Happy muttered, his scrunching up as his mind began to work. "Natsu, be careful," Lucy screamed, as she grabbed onto the back of Natsu's vest. "You might fall out." Ugh, please, just push me out already. Natsu groaned out, as his cheeks swelled. What did I want to tell Lucy? Happy hummed, as he watched Lucy try to pull Natsu back into the four-wheeler. Lucy. Weirdo. Fish. Yummy. Lucy. Weirdo. I'm not weird, you stupid cat. Lucy exclaimed, turning to glare at Happy. What is that? Urza asked with wide eyes, as she spotted smoke billowing out of the Ashibana train station. I'm sorry, Natsu, but we have to move. Urza said, as she pumped more magical energy into the SE plug. Everyone hold on. 5 minutes later, Ashibana Station. Urza came to a stop just outside the Ashibana train station. A large crowd had gathered around the station. People were murmuring and talking to each other to try and discover what was going on. All right, everyone, time to get out. Urza said, pulling the SE plug of her wrist. We need to find out what's going on. Urza hopped of the magical four-wheeler with the rest of the group following closely behind her. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay back. It's quite dangerous here. A police officer called out through a megaphone. A train happened to derail by accident, so no one is allowed to go into the station. Until we can confirm the situation inside the station, it will be closed to the public. Let's go! Urza exclaimed, pushing her way through the crowd of people. Out of my way! Everyone move! Natsu yelled, following right behind Urza. Step aside, everyone! But guys, the station is closed. Lucy said, struggling to keep up with Natsu and Urza's pace. Screw what they said, loose. Natsu said with a grin, as he grabbed Lucy's hand. The blonde gasped in shock when the Dragon Slayer yanked her forward, so that she was now right behind Urza. Lucy, we have no time to waste listening to them. Urza said, shoving a bystander off to the side. Every second counts, so we have to be fast. Finally reaching the front of the crowd, Urza spotted a police officer trying to keep people back. What's going on inside the station? Urza asked, walking up to the officer. Excuse me, miss, but who are you? The officer asked, raising an eyebrow. Instead of saying anything, Urza growled and headbutted the officer. The man groaned and fell over unconscious. Urza spotted 2 other officers and approached them. What's going on inside? The officer just gave Urza a surprised look. Again, Urza headbutted the officer, knocking him unconscious. Urza walked up to the 3rd officer and tapped his shoulder. What's going on inside? The officer let out a startled shriek when he turned to face Urza. Growling in annoyance, Urza like before headbutted the man. Guess she only likes people who give her an immediate response, doesn't she? Lucy asked, as she watched Urza walking up to several other officers, head-butting each of them. That's Urza for you. Natsu said with a sweat drop. She can be rather unorthodox at times. I guess you know her better now. Gray said in a frightened tone, as he watched Urza walk back towards them. Sigh, those guys didn't know anything. Urza said, putting her hands on her hips. Let's just head inside. Aye, sir. Happy cheered, as everyone followed Urza into the station. Walking into the station, the fairy tale mages were greeted to a troubling sight. The stairs and entrance to the station were littered with bodies of defeated Royal Army soldiers. Most were still alive, however they were very badly injured, but Urza could tell that some of the soldiers were in fact dead. The sight made all the fairy tale mages cringe, even a hardened mage like Urza. I can't believe they've all been defeated. Happy said in disbelief, as he floated over the defeated soldiers. Our enemy is a dark guild, which means they're all mages. Urza said, making her way through the station. The fairy tale mages all took great care to step over the fallen soldiers in their way. A military platoon like this one would stand a chance. Hurry up! The platform is this way. Gray said, once they had moved past all the soldiers. The ice mage pointed towards a set of doors at the end of the hall. Everyone sprinted down the hall and burst through the doors at the end of it. On the other side of the door was something that the fairy tale mages weren't expecting. Waiting for them appeared to be over 4 dozen Eisenwald mages. Urza spotted Aragorn sitting atop the parked train. "I knew you'd come," Aragorn said, resting his scythe on his shoulder. "Welcome to hell, fairy tale." "Shit, what's with all these people?" Lucy hissed, as fear began to spread through her body. "Heh, we've been waiting for you," Aragorn said, an evil grin spread across his face. "You're Aragorn, right?" Urza asked, glaring at Eisenwald's Shinigami. Her fists began to unconsciously clench. "You damn flies, it's because of you," Kageyama growled, as he glared at Natsu. "Hey, calm down, Kage-chan," Ryul said, placing a hand on Kageyama's shoulder. "What do you intend to do?" Urza asked, her voice taking on a menacing tone. "Your answer will decide whether I punish you all, or simply hand you off to the authorities." "Ha, we're just having a little fun," Aragorn answered with a twisted grin. "We haven't gotten a lot of jobs recently, and we're getting really bored." All the other Eisenwald mages burst out laughing, as Aragorn began to lift himself off the ground using jets of wind. "You little flies just don't get it, do you? What do train stations have?" "He's flying," Lucy said in awe, as she watched Aragorn levitate higher into the air. "That's wind magic," Happy pointed out, as strong gust of wind blew all around them. "Station?" Urza asked herself, as she watched Aragorn begin to fly towards the station's loudspeakers. The re-equipped mage could hear the Eisenwald mages snickering behind her. "Time's up, fairies," Aragorn said, as he knocked on the loudspeakers. Urza's eyes widened, as realization hit her. "Are you going to broadcast lullaby?" Urza asked in a shocked tone. No way," Lucy yelled, as her mouth opened in shock. "What?" Gray exclaimed, goosebumps covering his skin. "You bastard!" Natsu growled, as he felt anger begin to boil inside him. "Fwahaha!" Aragorn burst out laughing, with a twisted smile on his face. "There are hundreds, no thousands of people gathered around the station right now. If we can broadcast it loud enough, maybe the entire will hear the melody of death." "That's indiscriminate mass murder," Urza roared, taking a threatening step forward. "We are simply cleaning up those fools who live their lives, enjoying their rights," Aragorn said, leaning back in the air. "None of them knowing that there are people who have had their rights taken from them. Living a life oblivious to the unfairness of the world is a sin. Thus, I the Shinigami, have come to punish them all." Aragorn brought his scythe to his mouth, and ran his tongue along the blade. "A most righteous punishment called death. Your right will never be returned if do something that awful," Lucy argued, glaring at Eisenwald's Shinigami. "Plus, you're the bad guys to begin with. Now that we've come this far, it's not right that we seek. We seek authority. If we have authority, we can simply erase the past and control the future," Aragorn explained, causing a growl to escape Lucy's throat. "You're a complete fool," Lucy exclaimed, pointing at Aragorn. "What a pity," Kageyama said as he slammed a hand onto the ground. "For you annoying little flies." A shadow shot forward at blinding speeds, slipping past both Urza and Gray. A large fist spouted out of the ground, and prepared to smash Lucy. To die before getting a glimpse of the Dark Age. "Damn it!" Urza cursed, as she spun around with her sword drawn. "Shit, I can't get there in time." "You!" Natsu roared, cutting the shadows with a hand covered in flames. "How dare you try to hurt Lucy?" "You!" Kageyama growled, as he watched his shadows begin to dissipate. Thank God Natsu was there, Urza thought, as she placed a hand over her racing heart. I hate to think what would have happened if he wasn't here. Thank you, Natsu. Lucy stuttered out, still in shock over what just happened. He's always here to protect me. This time we're on a real battleground, you bastard. Natsu exclaimed, his fists coated in red-hot flames. But those flames died out when he saw all the other Eisenwald mages begin to surround Kageyama. Shit, there are more of them than I thought. You've fallen into our trap, fairies. Aragorn thought with a smirk as he watched events unfold from above. We had to spice things up here and there, but now it's time to get back to our original plan. There's someone who has to hear the melody of death. Someone I must put to death. This is Fairy Tale's strongest team, Lucy said, pointing at the small army of Eisenwald mages. Prepare yourselves. I'll leave the rest to you, Aragorn said with a smirk as he turned around. While I go play the flute. He then started to fly towards a nearby window. Let these clueless flies feel the power of Eisenwald's darkness. With a crash, Aragorn flew out of the train station's window. Are you running away, Aragorn, you coward? Urza exclaimed, glaring at the hole in the window. Shit! Do you think he's running to the next building? Gray suggested, as he felt a chill run down his spine. Gray! Natsu! Urza called out, getting both mages' attention. Both of you go after Aragorn. Both Gray and Natsu looked confused as they stared at Urza. If you two work together, there's no way you could lose to Aragorn. But Urza, I want to stay here and kick these guys' asses. Especially since I owe that guy a proper fight. Natsu said, pointing at Kageyama. Natsu, Lucy, and I will take care of things here. Urza said, flashing Natsu a grin. Take care of all of these people, just us two girls? Lucy asked herself, not liking their odds. Aragorn is planning to use Lullaby on this station. Urza said, grabbing Natsu and Gray's shoulders. We have to prevent that from happening no matter what. Urza looked at Natsu with pleading eyes. Please, Natsu, Lucy, and I can handle things here. You trust me, don't you? Yeah, I trust you more than anyone else I know, anyways you're right. Natsu said, as he grabbed Gray. Come on, Ice Princess, let's go. Get your hands off me, Flame Brain. Gray said, swatting Natsu's hand away. You could have just asked me to follow you. Whatever, let's just find this Aragorn guy. Natsu said, as he sprinted after Aragorn. Oi! Slow down, man. Gray yelled, running after the Dragon Slayer. Hey, two of them are running off. An Eisenwald mage exclaimed. They're probably going after Aragorn-san. Another Eisenwald mage pointed out. Leave the flies to me. Rayul said, shooting mummy-like wrappings out of his fingers. Using the wrappings like a grappling hook, Rayul chased after Natsu and Gray. Me too. I can't forgive that pink-haired bastard. Kageyama exclaimed, as he melted down into a shadow. TCH, Rayul and Kageyama are so belligerent. Bayard said, leering at Urza and Lucy. I bet it'll be more fun to play with these girls than those two guys. It's all for the plan. They're much more respectable than you. Karaka said, earning a glare from Bayard. Lucy, once we take care of these fools, we'll go after Natsu and Gray. Urza said, taking a few steps forward. Sure thing, Urza. Lucy said, reaching for her keys. What can two girls do? Bayard said, a faint blush dusting his cheeks. Both of them are gorgeous though. It's too bad we have to kill them. An Eisenwald mage said, licking his lips. Oh, I can't wait to see the fairy strip show. Another Eisenwald mage said, blood trickling out of his nose. How disgusting. Urza said, holding out her hand. Magical energy began to build around the knight's extended hand. You're lucky I sent Natsu off, or he'd be mauling you all right now. That pink-haired freak couldn't lay a finger on us. Bayard said, with a dark chuckle. Try insulting Natsu, or Fairy Tale further. Urza said, as a large materialized in her hand. I won't guarantee that you all live to see tomorrow. She took out her sword. Lucy gasped, as she take a fighting stance. So that's what her magic looks like. Heh, your magic is not so rare, lady. An Eisenwald mage said, as sword appeared in his hand. We have a lot of sword mages here as well. Another Eisenwald mage said, equipping two swords into his hands. We'll strip that armor off you, and see what you got underneath. The Eisenwald sword mages all charged forward at once. Urza's eyes quickly scanned over each of the mages. Her trained eyes spotted each of their weapons, and picked out the best way to fight each of them. Figuring out her best strategy, Urza charged the Eisenwald mages by herself.
Is she insane?
Lucy screamed in her head, as she watched Urza sprint towards the Eisenwald mages.
But what happened was not what Lucy was expecting.
Lucy had heard stories of Urza's strength from magazines and from Natsu, but to see it in person was something else entirely. Urza blew through the Eisenwald sword mages without even a scratch on her armor. She blocked, parried, countered the mages oftentimes without even looking at them. Lucy could only stare in utter disbelief as Urza tore through the Eisenwald mages, without even breaking a sweat. At the end of her rampage, over a dozen Eisenwald mages lay defeated behind Urza.
How about ranged magic, you bitch?
An Eisenwald mage roared, magical energy gathering in his hand. Reacting quickly, Urza backflipped and dodged the mage's attack. Mid-flip, Urza swapped out her sword for a large spear. Before the Eisenwald mage could even gasp in shock, Urza had taken him out with her spear. As soon as Urza landed back onto the ground, she changed out her spear for twin swords. The Eisenwald mages gathered around her weren't prepared, as Urza began to flawlessly cut through their ranks with her dual blades. Lucy was in awe at how graceful Urza appeared to be, as she ducked, weaved, and spun through Eisenwald's ranks. In her wake, a trail of defeated mages. Again Urza swapped out her weapon, this time a large axe appearing in her hands.
With a massive swing, Urza took out a half-dozen Eisenwald mages. This woman, how can she re-equip her weapons so fast? An Eisenwald mage exclaimed, fear evident in his voice. Urza's greatness starts here.
Happy said, a grin spread across his face.
Urza?
Karaka said, as his brows furrowed in confusion.
Where have I heard that name before?
Come on guys, we still have plenty of men left.
An Eisenwald mage shouted, rallying the other men.
You guys are way too much trouble. Urza said, as her entire body began to glow. Her armor began to strip off her body.
I'll just wipe you all out at once. Whoa! Here armor is coming off.
All the Eisenwald mages stopped to ogle Urza's body.
Happy smirked, as he watched Urza's body begin to glow brightly.
When the light started to die down, most of Urza's body was masked in smoke. But what Lucy saw made her gasp. Urza's body was covered in an entirely new armor that Lucy had never seen before. The new armor seemed to be made entirely out of silver metal. The upper portion of the armor consisted of a small breastplate that was composed of feather-shaped plates that pointed upwards with a large metal flower on the front. Her biceps were covered by metal straps and her very large plated gauntlets sported feather-shaped plates at the edges. Her waist was circled by large, decorated plates reminiscent of feathers that lied on a long skirt. She wore a pair of plated boots which were partially hidden under her skirt, each boot sported metal ornaments shaped like wings. Urza was also wearing a neckguard made of feather-like plates and a tiara with prominent metal wings. The armor also sported two pairs of large metal wings which adorned Urza's back, composed of metal feathers which got longer and larger at the edges. Lastly, over a dozen swords appeared in a circle behind Urza.
Heaven's wheel armor! Whoa! Lucy said in awe of Urza's new armor. Urza? She can't be.
Karaka said, as the swords behind Urza began so spin rapidly.
Dance my swords.
Urza said, as his swords formed a logger circle around her waist. Cut them to shreds, circle sword. The sword shot out, and cut through the Eisenwald mages that had surrounded Urza. The attack wiped out a majority of the remaining Eisenwald mages.
You bitch!
Bayard roared, as he charged Urza.
I'll be your opponent.
Without even blinking, Urza cut Bayard down before he even had a chance to touch her.
Pathetic.
Urza said, as she glared at the fallen Eisenwald mages.
She took out Bayard in one hit. There's no doubt.
Karaka said, as fear filled his body.
She's the strongest woman in fairy tale. Urza the Titania. Amazing!
Lucy exclaimed, as a faint blush painted her cheeks.
I could fall in love with her.
Around Urza were the bodies of all the fallen Eisenwald mages.
The only one left standing was Karaka. As soon as Urza's piercing gaze landed on Karaka, he bolted out of the room. He might be heading after Aragorn,
Urza said, as she turned to face Lucy.
Lucy, you go after him. Me!
Lucy exclaimed, pointing at herself.
Please. Lucy, we don't have time to just stand around.
Urza yelled, causing Lucy to jump in surprise.
Okay, Urza,
Lucy said, as she ran after Karaka. As soon as Lucy left the room, Urza released a heavy sigh and re-equipped back into her heart crew as armor. Sweat poured off Urza's body, as she began to pant heavily.
Natsu was right. Driving that magical four-wheeler has really affected me.
I'll leave rest to you, Natsu, Lucy, Gray.
With Natsu and Gray. If we work together? TCH, no way.
Gray yelled, as he ran next to Natsu.
You think I like this any more than you do? Natsu exclaimed, as he glared at Gray. But Urza asked us to work together, and I plan on doing what she said.
Whatever, I can take care of Aragorn myself. Gray said, as both fairy tale mages came to a fork at the end of the hall.
Which way do we go? Natsu asked, as he looked down both hallways. We'll have to split up,
Gray said, as he placed a hand on Natsu's shoulder.
Listen, Natsu.
Our opponent is an idiot who's planning to use dangerous magic to kill a lot of people.
Gray held up his clenched fist.
If you find him, crush him to pieces.
That's not all, right? Natsu said, holding up a flaming fist.
He's the moron who picked a fight with Fairy Tail. I'll burn him black as charcoal. Natsu and Gray both grinned at each other. But as soon as they realized they were being nice to each other, they both quickly turned their heads away.
Don't die,
Gray said under his breath.
Did you say something, Gray? Natsu asked, raising an eyebrow. Nothing. Just hurry and go, Gray yelled, as he ran down one of the hallways. TCH, if he manages to broadcast the Death Curse medley, it's gonna be a mess.
Suddenly Gray came to a stop.
Wait, broadcast? That's right.
If he's gonna broadcast Lullaby, Aragorn must be in the public broadcasting room. Gray looked up at a sign overhead, and saw where public broadcast room was located. Sprinting down the hall, Gray found the broadcast room and kicked down the door. But when Gray entered the room, he found that it was empty.
Why is he not here? This is the only room where he could broadcast Lullaby from.
As Gray examined the room, he didn't notice a figure slowly descending from the ceiling.
Rayul had a wicked grin on his face, as he prepared to attack Gray. It's strange that he's not here,
Gray said, as he felt a tingle shoot up his spine.
Does that mean he never planned to broadcast Lullaby?
Gary dove out of the way, as several rappings slammed into the ground where he had been standing. He turned to see Rayul smirking at him.
My, you have good instincts, Rayul said, as he stepped onto the ground. You'll be a nuisance to our plans. So there really is something going on?
Gray asked, as the air chilled around him. Geez, and you bastards were complaining about not having any work. Regular meeting site for guild masters.
Makarov-chan, I like the mages in your guild,
Bob, guild master of Blue Pegasus, said as he sat next to Makarov. I heard that 2 of your mages beat up a very influential man from somewhere.
Oh yeah. That was Lucy and Natsu. Lucy's our newest member,
Makarov explained, his words slurring slightly, as he took a gulp from his drink.
She's really good.
Especially her tits.
Oh Makarov-chan, you pervert.
Bob giggled, as he waved his hand dismissively.
It's good to be lively, but you guys are overdoing it.
Goldmine, guild master of Quattro Cerberus, said in an annoyed tone. I heard that some council members are worried that you guys might destroy an entire town one day. I want to be smashed to smithereens by Lucy's boobs. Makarov said drunkenly, as he twirled on top of a table. My, you shouldn't hit on your own mages, Makarov. Bob said, resting his head on his hand. Suddenly a messenger bird flew into the room. The small bird appeared to be carrying a letter. Spotting Makarov, the bird immediately flew over to the fairy tale guildmaster.
Makarov-sama, you have a message from Mirajane-sama.
The bird said, handing Makarov the letter. Makarov hummed, as he opened the letter. As soon as the letter opened up, a small projection of Mirajane appeared.
Master, thank you for attending the regular meeting.
The Mirajane projection said, as she waved at Makarov.
Look, she's our calling card. Makarov said, pointing to the letter. Isn't she so cute? I've got some wonderful news for you, Master.
The projection said, causing Makarov to raise an eyebrow.
Urza returned and went on a mission with Natsu and Gray. Of course, Lucy and Happy also went with them. Don't you think that's wonderful? Sweat began to form on Makarov's brow.
I think this might very well be the strongest team in Fairy Tale. Makarov was now sweating profusely, as he started to feel faint.
Well, I thought I'd inform you of this, so I wrote you a letter. See you later.
As soon as the projection of Mirajane disappeared, Makarov fell of the table. The fairy tale was twitching slightly. His face was twisted in horror, as sweat poured of his body.
Oh my god, they might actually destroy a town.
Makarov thought, as his left he twitched. The regular meeting ends today, and I can be back tomorrow, so please don't cause any messes until then.
Back at Ashibana Station.
A large crowd was still gathered around the train station.
People were discussing what could possibly going on inside the train station. What's going on inside? Military personnel went in, but they haven't come out yet. Have they all been defeated by the terrorists? The wind is really strong today.
But all the talking stopped when a lone figure began to walk out of the station. A scarlet-haired woman clad in armor descended the stairs to the station.
Everyone watched with bated breaths as the woman approached a police officer. Hey!
You're the woman who barged in earlier.
What the hell is going on in there?
The officer asked, but instead of asking, Urza grabbed the megaphone from the man's hands.
If you people value your lives, leave immediately. The station is occupied by dark mages. Urza yelled into the megaphone, causing the crowd to let out a collective gasp. One of them is ready to cast a spell that will kill everyone around here. Evacuate as far away as possible.
The crowd stood in shock for a moment, before everyone turned and bolted away from the train station.
Each of them was trying to get as far away as possible. Hey, why are you making people panic? The officer asked, as Urza dropped the megaphone.
It's better than seeing them all die.
Urza replied, turning to face the police officer. What I said is true.
My friends and I are doing everything possible to prevent that from happening, but we cannot guarantee your safety.
So it's best for you to evacuate too. Gah!
The officer shrieked, before he ran out of the station. Lullaby, a forbidden magic that kills anyone who hears its melody. Aragorn is planning to commit mass murder using that.
Urza thought, as her eyes narrowed. But now there is almost no one here. It'll be meaningless to use lullaby now. Well, what will he do now?
Urza was cut from her thoughts when a huge gust of wind blew past her. Urza had to shield her face, as the wind continued to pick up speed.
After a few moments, Urza couldn't believe what she was seeing.
A massive wall of powerful wind had formed around the train station.
How can this be?
Urza asked in disbelief, as she stared at the massive wall of wind that towered over the train station.
It looked as if the station was surrounded by a massive tornado. The station is surrounded by wind. What's a flying doing outside?
Aragorn asked, as he descended on Urza.
Ah, you're the one who sent all the bystanders away. Hello, Titania. Aragorn. Urza yelled, as she spun around to face Eisenwald's Shinigami. Did you do this? Urza gestured to the wall of wind behind her. I just wanted to fight you one time.
Aragorn said with a smirk, but then he sighed. But unfortunately I don't have time for that right now. Just stay inside and be a good girl. Aragorn then blasted Urza back with a powerful burst of wind. The force of the blast sent Urza flying through the wall of wind, and back into the train station. Coming to a skidding stop, Urza slowly rose back to her feet. Aragorn! Urza exclaimed, as she tried to push her hand through the wind. But Urza howled in pain when the wind cut up her unarmored hand. Urza clutched her bloody and bruised hand, as she glared up at Aragorn through the wind. Don't bother, this magic wall goes one way, from outside to inside. Aragorn said with a cackle, from outside the wind wall. If you flies try to escape you'll cut to shreds. What the hell are you doing? Urza yelled, anger evident in her tone. Ha, it's a bird cage, or rather a fly cage. Aragorn said, as he began to fly off. I've wasted too much time already. Now if you'll excuse me. Where are you going? Aragorn! Urza screamed, as she clenched her bloody fist. We're not done talking, you bastard. Urza clenched her teeth, as she hung her head. What's going on? This station isn't their target after all? Back with Grey and Rayul. I'll kill anyone who interferes with our plans. Rayul said, flashing Grey an evil smirk. Plan or whatever, this is the only place you can broadcast lullaby from. Grey said, as he gestured around the room. If Aragorn, who has lullaby, isn't here, why did you guys occupy the station? Rayul merely chuckled, as he swung his wrappings like a whip. Grey quickly ducked underneath the wrapping, but he was shocked when he saw Rayul hit the broadcasting equipment. He destroyed the broadcasting equipment without even hesitating. So they don't plan on broadcasting lullaby after all. Grey thought, as he glared at Rayul. Again Rayul shot his wrappings at Grey. But this time Grey created a wall of ice in front of him, blocking the wrappings before they could get him. Rayul chuckled, as he wrappings returned to his hand. So you're an ice mage? Rayul said with a smirk. This'll be fun. What is your real plan? Grey asked, as his wall of ice disappeared. About now Aragorn's magic wall of wind should be finished. Rayul said, causing Grey's eyes to widen. Magic wall of wind? Grey parroted in a confused tone. It's a wind barrier to keep you flies from leaving this place. Rayul explained with an evil grin. What? Grey exclaimed, as his eyes widened in shock. Suddenly Grey growled, as he shot forward and kneed Rayul, sending him flying through a wall. I fucking hate complicated stories, so just tell me what the hell is going on. We trapped you flies in here, because you were an unexpected hitch in our plans. Rayul said, wiping blood from his mouth. Originally we occupied this station to block off all transportation access to Clover Station, the last stop. A smirk spread across Rayul's face. That town is across a huge ravine, and there's no transportation other than this train. Unless you can fly like Aragorn-san. So that's where Lullaby is heading? Grey exclaimed, as Rayul began to stand back up. Just think about what's currently going on in Clover City. Rayul said, as she shot a barrage of bindings at Grey. Too shocked to move, Grey was hit in the shoulders. Rayul grinned, as he watched blood coat Grey's shoulders. And no way! Grey exclaimed, as he clutched his bleeding shoulder. It can't be. Clover City is the town where those old geezers are having their regular meeting. Your real target is the guildmasters. Ha ha. So you finally figured it out, little fly. Rayul laughed, as Grey's eyes darkened. You're doing something really crazy against geezers with powerful magic. Grey said, as he released a shaky breath. Playing the flute for geezers who are unaware should be easy. Rayul said, as he shrugged his shoulders. Aragorn-san can do it just fine on his own. Besides, people like you guys who interfere can't leave the station. That means there's no way you can stop us now. An evil smile spread across Rayul's face, his eyes wild. The Eisenwald mage never noticed the air freezing around Grey's hands. We're taking revenge for the oppression we had to endure in the past. Everything will disappear into thin air. Before Rayul could continue, Gray grabbed a hold of his face.
In an instant Rayul's head was encased in a block of ice.
Gray glared at the Eisenwald mage, his eyes filled with anger. "We'll stop you assholes, and make you regret targeting out parents," Gray said, as he pushed Rayul over. He stood over the Eisenwald mage with eyes full of fury. "I'll teach that there are guilds even more frightening than dark guilds."
Back with Urza.
The scarlet-haired knight had made her way back inside the train station. She was walking amongst the fallen Eisenwald mages when she noticed one was still conscious. She growled in anger, and grabbed the man by his collar.
"Aragorn's magical wind wall, how do I get rid of it?" Urza yelled in the Bayard's face. "I don't know." It's impossible,"
Bayard said, as he cowered away from Urza. "There's no way for us to nullify the wind wall." Urza snarled before she punched Bayard in the face, causing him to roar in pain.
"Urza!" Gray exclaimed from the floor above Urza. "Gray?"
Urza yelled in surprise, before her eyes widened. The knight began to panic when she didn't see the dragon slayer with Gray.
"Where's Natsu? I thought he was with you. Natsu, please be okay."
Urza thought, as she clutched a hand over her heart.
"There was a fork in the station, and we split up. I haven't seen him since then,"
Gray said, as he saw a look of worry flash across Urza's face.
"But we have bigger problems on our hands."
This got Urza's attention, as she looked back up at Gray.
"Eisenwald's true target is the town ahead.
It's the town where all the geezers are having their regular meeting.
Aragorn is planning to use Lullaby there."
"Yeah, I got the general idea from Aragorn, but this station is surrounded by a magic wall of wind," Urza said, as she released a deep sigh.
"I just saw it,"
Gray said, as he hoped down to Urza's level. "If we try to force our way through it, we'll be turned to minced meat.
Aragorn is getting closer to Master, and we're wasting time here,"
Urza said, rubbing her wounded arm. "One of these guys should know how to nullify this wind," Gray said, as he kicked an Eisenwald mage.
"Stop it, they don't know how to dispel the wind wall."
As soon as the words left Urza's mouth, she let out a small gasp.
"What is it?"
Gray asked, cocking an eyebrow.
"I just remembered someone named Kageyama in their Eisenwald.
He's the one who broke the seal on Lullaby by himself," Urza exclaimed, causing Gray's eyes to widen. "If he's a dispeller, he might be able to get rid of this wind," Gray yelled, as both fairy tale mages took off down the hall.
"Let's look for him. We have to capture Kageyama. TCH, Kakaraka."
Bayard stuttered out, as he looked at the wall beside him.
"Are you just gonna hide forever? You're there, aren't you?"
Sorry," Karaka said, as he materialized from the wall next to Bayard. He slowly approached Bayard, rubbing the back of his head. "You heard what those fairy bastards said, right?"
Bayard said, earning a nod from Karaka. "Kageyama's being targeted by them. Go to him." "Why me? I won't be able to help him,"
Karaka said, as he began to panic. "Oh, your job will be much easier than that," Bayard said with an evil look in his eyes. On the other side of the station, Lucy and Happy slowly walked through the abandoned train station in search of Karaka. But so far they hadn't found a single sign of the missing Eisenwald mage. Lucy sighed, as the pair turned another corner.
"We totally lost him,"
Lucy said in a dejected tone. "Maybe we should just go back and regroup with Urza."
Hearing this caused Happy to look at Lucy in shock. What?
"Urza told us to go after that Eisenwald guy," Happy said, as he began to shake. "I see, Lucy is truly incredible, she's gonna ignore Urza's request."
"I wouldn't want to see Urza doing this and that to you, Lucy. What is she gonna do to me?"
Lucy asked, as she began to panic.
"You don't want to know,"
Happy said, causing Lucy to squeak in fear.
"Okay. I'll keep looking for him. We'll search until we find him,"
Lucy said, as she continued her search.
"You change your mind pretty quickly, Lucy."
Happy said, as he followed closely behind the blonde.
Why are you even following me, you dumb cat? Lucy yelled, as she glared at Happy. As Lucy and Happy continued to search for Karaka, Natsu was still searching for Aragorn.
Coming to another room, Natsu raised a flaming foot and smashed through the wall next to the door.
Aragorn! Natsu roared, as he stormed into the room. Where are you hiding, you bastard? Swiveling his head from side to side, Natsu didn't spot Aragorn.
The Dragon Slayer hopped out of the hole he had created, and moved to the next room.
Alright, next one. Again Natsu crashed through the wall in an explosion of flames.
Spotting nothing once again, Natsu moved to the next room.
Does he know how to use doors?
Kageyama thought, as he watched from the ceiling. The Eisenwald mage was still in his shadow form.
He's insane. Next! Natsu yelled, as he crashed through yet another wall. But Aragorn-san isn't even in the station anymore, so he's just wasting his time. Kageyama thought, as he began to descend from the ceiling. I could just leave him alone. Then, Kageyama swung from the ceiling and kicked Natsu in the back of the head.
The Dragon Slayer sent flying across the room into a stack of boxes.
I won't have a peace of mind. You again? Natsu roared, as he spun to face Kageyama.
He glared at the shadow user, his eyes full of fury.
I got the basic idea of what your magic is, Kageyama said with a smirk.
You increase your destructive power by coating a part of your body in flames or lightning. Pretty unusual magic, especially since you can use two different types.
Rah! I really want to kick the shit out of you for trying to hurt Lucy. But I don't have time to deal with you. Natsu yelled, as his body became surrounded by flames.
Where's Aragorn?
I wish I could tell you, that little fly,
Kageyama said, as his shadow shot forward. Maybe if you defeat me, I'll tell you.
Oh, you're gonna tell me after I kick the shit out of you? Natsu asked, as he dodged Kageyama's shadow attack. A grin spread across Natsu's face when he looked at Kageyama.
Talk about killing two birds with one stone.
TCH, he's fast,
Kageyama said, as he slammed his hands onto the ground. But there's no way you'll be able to dodge my shadow snakes. Several snakes made out of shadows shot towards Natsu, and began to chase after him. Every time Natsu dodged, the shadow snakes would turn and chase after him.
They'll chase you to the end of the world. Fine,
Natsu exclaimed, as he coated his fist in red-hot flames.
No more evading then. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Lightning Dragon's Claw. Fire Dragon's Roar. Lightning Dragon's Wing Attack.
One after another Natsu destroyed the shadow snakes that were coming after him.
Each attack switching from fire to lightning in the blink of an eye. Kageyama watched stunned that Natsu was single-handedly destroying all of his shadows. Last one. Natsu yelled, as he inhaled deeply.
Electricity cracked around the Dragon Slayer's mouth, as his cheeks started to bulge.
Lightning Dragon's Roar.
A streak of bright lightning shot from Natsu's mouth, and destroyed the last shadow snake.
And no way. He destroyed all of them. Kageyama exclaimed in complete and utter disbelief.
The Eisenwald mage's eyes widened, as Natsu stalked towards him. The Dragon Slayer had a grin on his face, as he coated his fist in flames.
This can't be happening. This is for trying to hurt Lucy. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist. Natsu punched Kageyama in the face with a flaming fist, sending the Eisenwald mage flying across the room. What's with this punch? Kageyama thought, as he flew through the air. It's not the punch of a mage. But Natsu wasn't finished with Kageyama yet.
He dove after the shadow user, and grabbed him as soon he touched the ground. Using his momentum, Natsu flipped over, and hurled Kageyama through a nearby wall. Natsu inhaled deeply again, as embers formed around his mouth.
Fire Dragon's Roar. He's a D-demon,
Kageyama thought, as he watched the stream of flames fly towards him. The flames hit Kageyama, causing an explosion to ring throughout the station.
What was that?
Happy asked, as he spun towards the sound of the explosion.
That sounds like Natsu,
Lucy said, as she ran towards the explosion.
Come on, Happy. Aye, sir, Happy said, flying after Lucy. That's gotta be Natsu,
Urza exclaimed, as a wave of relief washed over her.
It's just up ahead. Looks like Flame Brain is causing trouble again,
Gray said, as they rounded a corner.
Kageyama lay in a barely conscious heap against a wall.
His eye twitched, as smoke drifted off his charred clothing.
Natsu smirked as smoke billowed out of the corners of his mouth. Ha ha!
I won, ya bastard.
Natsu laughed, as he pointed at Kageyama. As you promised, tell me where Aragorn is.
Asterisk cough asterisk ha, what an idiot. Kageyama said, as a smirk spread across his battered and bruised face.
Aragorn-san isn't even in the station anymore.
Ha! Natsu yelled in anger, as he grabbed Kageyama by his collar.
Stop, Natsu. We need him.
Urza yelled, as Gray and her ran up to the Dragon Slayer.
Urza? Gray? What's going on?
Natsu asked, as he turned to face his friends.
Good job, you pink-haired bastard, Gray said with a grin. Thank God you're all right, Natsu,
Urza said, as she walked up to the Dragon Slayer.
And good job dealing with Kageyama. What's with you two?
Natsu said with a confused look.
It was nothing.
We have no time to explain, but we're looking for him, Gray said, as he rushed past Natsu.
Leave it to me, Urza said, as she kneeled next to Kageyama.
Suddenly a sword appeared in Urza's hand, and she pressed it against Kageyama's throat. I want you to nullify the magical wall of wind at once.
Urza pressed the blade harder against Kageyama's throat.
The blade just barely broke the skin, causing Kageyama to hiss in pain. Kageyama flinched when he saw the seriousness in Urza's eyes.
You'll get a new cut overtime, you say no, understood?
Urza's tone was deadly serious, causing Kageyama's eyes to widen.
Hey Urza, he's all worn out, Natsu said in a surprised tone. That's a little cruel, don't you think? Natsu, just shut up,
Gray hissed.
You underestimate.
Kageyama suddenly yelled in pain, as blood started to pour from his mouth.
OD.
Urza watched wide-eyed, as she watched Kageyama slump forward.
She gasped when she saw a small dagger in Kageyama's back. Kageyama!
Urza exclaimed, as she grabbed Kageyama before he could hit the ground.
Kageyama, speak to me.
Please, we need your nullifying mage.
Please don't die. Shit, he's our last hope,
Gray said, as he ran towards Urza.
Shit. Kageyama, hang in there.
Hey!
We need your help, man.
Kageyama was barely breathing in Urza's arms, and his eyes were closed.
For real. Shit. Kageyama, pull yourself together,
Urza said, as she began to panic.
Urza, it's no use. He's unconscious,
Gray pointed out, as he kneeled next to Urza.
I can't let him die. He has to nullify the wind wall,
Urza exclaimed, as she looked at the wound on Kageyama's back.
You can say that, but he can't use magic in his condition, Gray yelled, as he gestured to Kageyama's battered condition. He has to do it,
Urza yelled, as she began to sweat. While this was going on, Natsu spotted a man jutting out of the wall behind Kageyama. The man's arm was extended, and he had a shocked look on his face. The man began to sputter incoherently, as he started to sink back into the wall. A sudden rage filled, as his eyes widened in raw fury.
Aren't you Nakama from the same guild? Natsu roared, as he shot forward. Lightning sparked off the Dragonslayer's fist.
Natsu's fist crashed through the wall, and grabbed the fleeing Karaka by his throat. He slammed the man to the ground, as a vein bulged on his head. Natsu's breathing was ragged, as he glared at the man below him.
You bastard! Is that how your fucking guild works?
This is the scene Lucy and Happy stumbled upon, when they finally caught up with everyone. Lucy was shocked when she saw Gray and Urza trying to help an injured Eisenwald mage. While Natsu stood over another Eisenwald mage, a look of pure rage on his face.
Did we come at a bad time?
Lucy stuttered out, as everyone turned to look at her.
I think we did. Happy said with a gulp. Track leading to Clover Town.
Clover Town, where the guild masters have gathered, it's getting close.
Aragorn said, as he walked down the train tracks leading to Clover Town.
Since I've regained most of the magical power I used to create the wind wall, I should speed things up. Wind gathered around Aragorn's legs, as he shot into the air. Using his recharged magical energy, Aragorn sped towards Clover Town. Those geezers took away our jobs and rights, just wait and see.
I'll kill you all with Lullaby's melody.
It's time for the Shinigami to purge their wretched souls.
Back at Ashibana Station.
Aragorn's real target is the regular meeting.
Lucy gasped, covering her mouth in shock.
Yeah, but we won't be able to get out of here unless do something about this magic wind wall. Gray said with a sigh, as he crossed his arms over his chest.
Rah!
Natsu roared, as he tried to run through the wind wall. But the second he touched the powerful wind, he was sent tumbling backwards.
Kageyama, please help us out.
Urza said, trying to coax the unconscious man.
With Lucy's help, the fairy tale mages had managed to heal most of Kageyama's injuries.
He would live, but he was still severely battered. I'll just break through.
Natsu yelled, as he punched the wall with a flaming fist.
Like before, he was sent tumbling back as soon as fist touched the wind.
Natsu!
Lucy exclaimed with a worried look on her face, as she rushed over to the Dragon Slayer.
Idiot, you can't break through with brute strength.
Gray said, putting his hands in his pockets.
I'm not done yet.
Natsu exclaimed, as he shot to his feet. The Dragon Slayer took a deep breath, causing electricity to spark to life around his mouth.
Lightning Dragon's Roar.
The stream of lightning struck the wall of wind, and the two elements battled for a few moments. But everyone was shocked to see the beam of cut through the wind wall, and create a large opening.
It cut through,
Urza said in a shocked tone. But before the fairy tale mages could make a move, the hole in the wind wall closed up.
Shit, it doesn't stay open long enough.
I could keep a continuous stream going, so you guys can get out. Natsu suggested, causing Urza to shake her head.
Rah!
Natsu roared again, as he tried to brute force through the wall once again. He started to push through, but his face and were getting cut up.
Hey! Stop it, Natsu.
You'll get cut to pieces. Lucy exclaimed, as she ran up to Natsu. But Natsu ignored Lucy, and continued to push through the fierce wind.
I said stop it.
Lucy grabbed Natsu, and pulled him back into the station. Natsu turned to glare at the person who had pulled him back, but his eyes softened when he saw Lucy's worried look. I told you stop it, you idiot. Are you trying to hurt yourself?
Sorry, Luce, Natsu said as he avoided Lucy's gaze.
I'm sorry if I worried you.
It's all right, Natsu.
Lucy said, as she smiled at Natsu. Just please be careful.
Natsu, Lucy's right.
If you keep a continuous stream of lightning, you'll be trapped here after we get out, and it will drain you of your magical energy. Urza said, as she walked up to Natsu and placed her hand on his shoulder. And we're gonna need your help to fight Aragorn, so save your strength. Natsu sighed, before he nodded in agreement.
We've got to hurry. Gray, can't you freeze this thing?
Lucy asked, pointing to the wind wall behind her.
I would have done that a long time ago if I could. Gray said with a huff. Shit. What are we gonna do?
Urza yelled, slamming her fist into the wall beside her.
Natsu's eyes suddenly widened as he stared at Lucy. What?
Lucy asked, as Natsu spun around and grabbed onto her shoulders.
I know. We can use your celestial spirits.
Natsu yelled, causing Lucy to raise an eyebrow. I was able to travel through the celestial spirit world in Everloose Mansion. But humans usually would die when they enter it, 'cause they can't breathe there. Lucy explained, earning a frown from Natsu.
And the gate only opens where the stellar spirit mage is standing.
Meaning if you want to get out of here through the celestial spirit world, we have to have at least one celestial spirit mage outside of the station.
There's really no way you can do it. Natsu whined as he tried to plead with Lucy. Can't you at least give it a try? I said it's impossible.
Lucy huffed as she stomped her foot.
Besides, it's a serious breach of contract when a human enters the celestial spirit world. It was okay the other time, because it was Everlu's key. Sorry, Luce, I didn't know it was such a big deal.
Natsu said, as he rubbed the back of his head.
Well, it is.
Lucy said, as she crossed her arms. Celestial spirit mages take contracts very seriously, you already know that.
Everlu's key.
Happy said to himself, before sudden realization hit him.
Lucy. I just remembered. What? Lucy asked, turning to face the blue cat. The thing I was going to tell you when we were in the magical four-wheeler.
Happy said, as he reached into his green pack. After rifling through the pack for a moment, Lucy was shocked to see Happy pull out a golden zodiac key.
That's Virgo's key.
Lucy exclaimed in shock, as she pinched Happy's nose.
You shouldn't be taking someone else's key without their permission.
No, Virgo herself wanted you to have it. Happy said, as he pushed Lucy's hand away.
What?
Lucy shouted, as she snatched the key.
What are you two talking about? Urza asked, as she walked up to Natsu, Lucy, and Happy.
Don't waste our time talking about nonsense. Gray said in an annoyed tone.
Virgo.
Natsu said, tapping his chin as he thought.
You mean the gorilla maid?
She said since Everlu was arrested their contract was broken.
Happy explained to Lucy. So she wanted a contract with you instead.
She came to Natsu and I's house. I'm flattered by the offer, but it's not the time for that.
We have to think of a way to get out of here. Lucy said with a huff.
But Happy was cut off when Lucy grabbed his cheek.
Shush. Just be quiet and let us think. Lucy said, putting Happy back down. Wait. Lucy, Happy's onto something. Natsu exclaimed, surprising the celestial spirit mage.
Virgo can dive underground and dig holes.
She can get us under the magical wind wall. Is that true? Gray said, his eyes wide. I see. Good job, Happy.
Lucy said, as she hugged Happy.
Why didn't you mention that earlier? 'Cause you kept pinching me.
Happy replied with a deadpan look.
I am the one who connects the road to the celestial spirit world.
Lucy chanted, as she raised the golden key. Thou shalt head to the calling and pass through the gate.
Open. Gate of the Virgin.
Virgo.
A blinding light filled the room, as a magical circle formed underneath Lucy.
A moment later, a beautiful pink-haired girl burst out of the ground in front of Lucy.
Natsu, Lucy, and Happy stared at Virgo in shock.
She looked nothing like the behemoth they had met in Everlu's mansion.
How may I help you, mistress?
Virgo asked, bowing to Lucy.
You lost a lot of weight.
Natsu said, as he looked Virgo up and down.
Sorry for causing you trouble last time.
Virgo said with a smile.
Lost weight, she's like a completely different person.
Lucy exclaimed, as she pointed at Virgo.
Why, your appearance is so different. I'm a loyal celestial spirit. I can work in whatever appearance you'd like. Virgo explained. You looked a lot scarier, and more intimidating before. Natsu said, as he rubbed his chin. Then I can change back if that please you.
Virgo said, as she changed back to her previous form.
God, no! Lucy yelled, as she waved her hands frantically. Go back to your other form. As you wish, mistress.
Virgo said, as she changed back.
She's pretty cute.
Gray said with grin, before Urza grabbed his ear.
Keep it in you pants.
Urza said, causing a chill to run up Gray's spine. The re-equipped mage's gaze then landed on Lucy, and she smiled at Celestial Spirit Mage.
Lucy, I guess Natsu was right about you. She really is a great mage. Virgo, we don't have time to make a contract now. Can we please do it later? Lucy pleaded with the spirit. As you wish, mistress. Virgo replied with a bow. Please stop calling me mistress, Lucy said, as she rubbed her arm. It brings back some bad memories, and makes me feel weird. How about, Your Highness? Virgo suggested, quirking her head. That's even worse. How about, Princess? Virgo said, causing a light blush to spread across Lucy's face. Well, I do like that. Lucy said, she put a hand to her cheek. Hurry up, you two. Gray yelled, starting to get rather frustrated just standing around. Okay. Here I go. Virgo yelled, as she began to tunnel into the ground. Wow. She dove right in. Gray exclaimed in astonishment. Great job, Lucy. Urza said, as she hugged Lucy against her armored chest. Lucy grunted in pain, but she allowed Urza to continue. All right. Let's get through this hole, Gray said, as he prepared to jump through the hole Virgo created. Nice job, Luz, Natsu said, as he hoisted Kageyama onto his shoulders. Natsu, what are you doing? Gray asked, as Natsu walked towards the hole. I won't feel right if he dies after fighting me, Natsu said, as he jumped into the hole. Urza and Lucy couldn't help but smile at the kindness Natsu had shown. Kageyama, who was starting to regain consciousness, couldn't believe what he was hearing. Eventually everyone had made their way through the hole Virgo had created. Natsu and Kageyama were the first out, and Natsu let out a loud laugh as he crawled out of the hole. We made it! Yeah! Natsu screamed, as he got onto the street outside the wind wall. Hurry! Urza yelled, as she helped pull Lucy out of the hole. Holy shit! This wind is fucking insane! Lucy yelled, as she shielded her face. Princess! Your underwear is almost showing! Virgo exclaimed, as she pulled Lucy's flowing skirt back down. Then you should hide yours too! Lucy yelled, as she watched Virgo's own skirt blow in the wind. Gray watched the scene unfold with wide eyes. But he nearly jumped out his skin when he felt a hand grip his shoulder tightly. The ice mage turned his head to see Natsu glaring at him. If I were you, I'd turn my eyes away now, Natsu warned, causing Gray to turn his head the other direction. There's no way, you'll catch up to Aragorn-san now, Kageyama said from where he laid on the ground. Wait! Where did Natsu go? Urza yelled in a panic, as she lost sight of the Dragon Slayer. Did we lose him again? Happy isn't here either, Lucy pointed out, as both her and Urza's eyes widened. Tracks leading to Clover Town. Aragorn was approaching Clover Town. He could see the town off in the distance. But Aragorn's eyes widened when he felt a presence rapidly approaching behind him. He turned his head to see what appeared to be a person flying towards him. This is... The approaching figure yelled. Happy's. Aragorn gasped when he received a flaming kick to the face. Max speed. Natsu grinned as he watched Aragorn crash into the tracks below. I can't fly anymore, Happy said, as he fell into Natsu's arms. Thanks, buddy. Now we caught up with the bastard, Natsu said, giving Happy a toothy grin. Why you? Aragorn said, as he stood up and glared at Natsu. Why are you here? To kick your skinny ass, you gentle breeze bastard, Natsu said with a smirk, as lightning sparked off his hands. I know your weakness now. Chapter 9, Fairy Tale's Strongest Team. Tracks leading to Clover Town. Son of a bitch, Urza roared, as she slammed her fist onto the armrest of the magical four-wheeler she had commandeered. I can't believe we lost Natsu again, I can't believe I lost Natsu again. Urza said the last part in a sad tone, as she looked down at her lap.
The scarlet-haired knight clenched her fists in fit of self-loathing.
That's the second time in one day that I've lost track of Natsu. Damn it, Natsu. Why'd you have to run off on your own? I should be out there helping you. This isn't the magical four-wheeler we rented,
Lucy observed, as she leaned out the four-wheeler's open cabin.
Natsu, don't do anything stupid. Please just hang on, we'll be there to help you in no time.
I'll give credit where it's due, Eisenwald sure took plenty of precautions,
Gray said, glancing at Kageyama.
The shadow user was seated right next to Gray.
They even destroyed our vehicle. I guess we'll have to pay for that when we get back,
Lucy said, resting her head on top of her arms.
TCH, and you stole another vehicle. How irresponsible, Kageyama said, earning a glare from Lucy. We're just borrowing it,
Lucy exclaimed, as she leaned back into the four-wheeler. Besides, we wouldn't even have needed to borrow this one if you guys didn't blow up our old one.
Why did you even bring me along? Kageyama asked dejectedly, as he looked down at his lap. What Natsu said was true,
Lucy said, her eyes softening.
We wouldn't feel right leaving you in that abandoned town. We're gonna take you to a hospital in Clover Town. So you'd better be thankful. Why did you save me? We're enemies,
Kageyama said, before a smirk spread across his face.
Oh, I got it now, you're taking me hostage so that you can negotiate with Aragorn-san. Sorry, but that'd be a waste of time. Aragorn-san is cold-blooded.
There's no way he'll make a deal with you flies.
Ugh, is it so hard to believe that we actually want to help you?
Lucy asked herself, as she ran her hand down her face.
You know, I can kill you right now if you want to die so badly,
Gray said, as a dagger made out of ice formed in his hand.
Kageyama squeaked in surprise when Gray pressed the cold blade against his throat. Life and death aren't the only possible outcomes of a conflict, right? Gray took the dagger away from Kageyama's throat and made it disappear.
You should all value your lives more, and you should do something positive with your lives.
Kageyama looked at the fairy tale mages surrounding him with a surprised look.
He couldn't believe that these mages, his enemies, were treating him so well after he had just tried to kill them.
Maybe they aren't flies after all. However, Kageyama was shaken from his thoughts when the magical four-wheeler suddenly swerved to the right.
The sudden movement caused everyone in the back to fly around the cabin.
Urza! Gray yelled as he checked on his nakama.
What Gray saw made him panic. Urza was hunched forward with sweat dripping off her brow, as she breathed heavily.
My vision is getting blurry,
Urza thought, as the scenery around her began to distort. I consumed too much magical power. Urza shook her head violently to wake herself back up. She grit her teeth, and continued to pump magical energy into the SE plug.
The magical four-wheeler continued to race down the tracks. Natsu, please stop Aragorn. I'm counting on you to hold him off until we can get there to help you.
If we can't stop him, all of the guild masters in this area will die.
So just hold on, and stay safe. With Natsu and Aragorn. Why you?
Aragorn said, as he stood up and glared at Natsu.
Why are you here? To kick you skinny ass, you gentle breeze bastard, Natsu said with a smirk, as lightning sparked off his fists. I know your weakness now. Weakness?
Aragorn parroted with a smirk on his face, as he wiped some blood from his lip.
I have no weakness, you insolent little fly. Care to test that theory? Come on, you scrawny bitch, Natsu exclaimed, holding up a sparking fist.
I'll fry you with my lightning, then I'll burn that damn flute into a pile of ash.
What happened to the wind wall, along with Kageyama and the rest?
Aragorn thought, as he clenched his teeth. I was just about to arrive where those geezers are, too. Aragorn began to make several rapid motions with his arm.
These really are some bothersome flies. Die,
Aragorn said, as several blades of wind shot towards Natsu.
But Aragorn was shocked to see a smirk spread across Natsu's face. As the blades of wind neared, Natsu raised his lightning-covered fists. Lightning Dragon's Iron Fist.
Natsu began to punch the blades of wind. His lightning-covered fists cut right through the wind, but like with the wind wall, the blades of wind reformed shortly after Natsu struck them. The blades of wind all flew past Natsu, and struck a rock pillar behind the Dragon Slayer.
Aragorn couldn't believe his eyes, as he stared at the unscathed Dragon Slayer. What?
How is that possible?
Aragorn exclaimed, as he took a fearful step backwards.
I figured it out back at Ashibana Station.
Natsu said, cracking his electrified knuckles.
I shot some lightning at your wind wall, and it managed to cut through it briefly. So I figured it would work with the rest of work magic, and I guess I was right. I can negate your wind magic, so you can't touch me. This idiot didn't even know if his strategy would work. Aragorn thought, as he began to sweat.
This kid is insane.
Aren't you cold when you're naked like that?
Natsu said, causing Aragorn to raise an eyebrow.
Then let's heat things up. Surrounding his feet in flames, Natsu shot forward like a rocket.
Natsu's head became engulfed in flames, as he approached Aragorn. Fire Dragon's Sword Horn.
Holy shit, he's fast. Aragorn thought, as Natsu's flame-powered headbutt knocked the wind out of him.
Before Aragorn could even react, Natsu was on top of him again. Fire Dragon's Claw. Natsu smashed his flaming foot on top of Aragorn's head.
Aragorn's face smashed into the ground with an audible crunch. Natsu prepared for another attack, but Aragorn rolled out of the way and propelled himself into the air.
Eisenwald's Shinigami floated above Natsu, out of breath and heavily bruised. I'll admit you're pretty good for a fly,
Aragorn said, spitting some blood from his mouth.
But don't get too carried away.
Aragorn began to weave through several hand signs again, causing a smirk to spread across Natsu's face.
Let's see how you like this. Stormbringer.
A massive funnel of powerful wind raced towards Natsu. But the Dragon Slayer stood his ground, unafraid of the rapidly approaching wind.
You don't learn, do you? Natsu said, as he inhaled deeply.
Electricity sparked to life in the air around the Dragon Slayer, as his cheeks bulged.
Lightning Dragon's Roar. Both attacks clashed, and a battle for dominance ensued. But after a few moments, Natsu's lightning began to push back Aragorn's wind.
The Eisenwald mage watched in awe, as his wind was destroyed by the beam of lightning. Before the lightning could get too close, Aragorn cancelled his attack and moved out of the lightning's path.
Starting to panic, Aragorn shot towards Natsu with his scythe drawn. Take this!
Aragorn roared, as he swung his massive blade. But to Aragorn's complete and utter shock, Natsu blocked the blade with his left arm. The Dragon Slayer winced in pain, as the bottom of the scythe's blade started to cut into his arm.
What kind of monster is this kid? He's not human.
Again Natsu inhaled, but this time fire began to form around the Dragon Slayer.
Shit! It's fire this time. Fire Dragon's Roar. A stream of searing fire erupted from Natsu's mouth.
Aragorn managed to fly out the way in nick of time, the intense flames singeing the bottom of his clothes. Using this time escape, Aragorn flew up above the Dragon Slayer.
Ha! You're a sneaky one, Natsu said, as wiped away the excess flames from his mouth. Blood was slowly trailing down Natsu's left arm, but he didn't seem to notice. Why don't you come back down here, you pussy? What's with this guy? Everything he does is so random, all his attacks are unpredictable. Aragorn thought, panting slightly. Is this the power of a fairy tale mage? It seems that I have underestimated your abilities,
Aragorn said, as the wind started to pick up around him.
Let's fight seriously now. Just you and me.
I don't think you fighting seriously will make any difference,
Natsu said, as he sneered at Aragorn.
Let's see how cocky you are after this, Aragorn said, as his entire body became encompassed in wind.
Wind mail. Here I come, you bastard. Some people never learn, Natsu said, as he engulfed his entire body in electricity. Back with Urza and the rest of Team Natsu. That flame brat must be dead by now.
Kageyama said, causing Lucy to growl at him.
Watch what you say about Natsu, you dick. Lucy said, as she glared at Kageyama. Why would say something like that anyways?
There's no way you can break through Aragorn-san's storm mail with flames alone.
Ever. Kageyama said with a cocky smirk. You seem to forget one thing.
Lucy said with an all-too-sweet smile, as she leaned forward.
Natsu can use lightning as well as fire. Kageyama's eyes widened, as he remembered the Dragon Slayer being able to use both flames and lightning.
Also, you probably didn't notice since you were unconscious, but Natsu's lightning managed to cut through Aragorn's wind wall.
What? That's impossible! Kageyama exclaimed, shock written across his face.
Oh, it's very possible,
Urza said, as she turned her head to smirk at Kageyama. And I wager anything that Natsu is kicking Aragorn's ass right now. Back with Natsu. How is this possible?
Aragorn thought, as he fell to his knees. His storm mail dissipated, as he felt his entire body go numb. Aragorn had been hit by so much lightning that his nerves were fried, and he couldn't feel anything. The Shinigami of Eisenwald was defenseless and out of magical energy, as Natsu stood over him.
The Dragon Slayer's entire body was surrounded in powerful electricity. Aragorn hadn't been able to land a single blow on Natsu. The Dragon Slayer's lightning negated Aragorn's attacks and managed to pierce his storm mail.
I can't believe Dragon Slayers of this caliber still exist. Aragorn gasped in shock when Natsu grabbed him by his throat. The Dragon Slayer lifted Aragorn into the air and glared at him. Natsu's grip slowly began to tighten around Aragorn's throat. Moments later, the Eisenwald mage began to gasp for air, and weakly tried to claw at Natsu's hand. But right when Aragorn's vision began to fade, he felt himself roughly thrown to the ground. Aragorn took several deep lungfuls of air, before he looked up at the Dragon Slayer with fear in his eyes.
I could have killed you right now,
Natsu said coldly, his eyes full of anger. I could have killed you several times during our fight.
But I didn't. I didn't because I'm not like you.
The harshness in Natsu's words caused Aragorn to flinch. I value human life, even the life of some heartless murderer like you. The Dragon Slayer's words stung, and Aragorn hung his head in shame. I'd rather see you pay for your crimes, and repent for your sins, instead of simply ending your life. Natsu suddenly grabbed Aragorn by his scarf, and pulled him to his feet.
You threatened to hurt my Nakama, Grey, Happy, the old geezers, Urza. Lucy. Ji-chan. A growl escaped Natsu's throat, as he said the last three names.
I can never forgive you for threatening those precious to me, but I won't kill you. I'm gonna turn your pathetic ass over to the council, so they can give you proper punishment.
But until then this will do. Suddenly Natsu's fist shot forward. His fist struck Aragorn in the face, knocking him unconscious.
I said I wouldn't kill. I didn't say I wouldn't knock you the fuck out. As Natsu stood triumphantly over the defeated Aragorn, he never noticed Lullaby lying just a few feet away. The demonic flute seemed to be leaking a small trail black smoke from its mouth, and it appeared to be chuckling slightly.
Natsu!
Lucy and Urza yelled, as the magical four-wheeler came to a skidding stop a few feet away.
Oh, hey guys!
Natsu said with a smile, as he placed his hands on his hips. You're all late, I've already dealt with this guy.
Natsu gestured to Aragorn with his thumb. Aye, sir. Natsu was incredible.
Happy cheered, as he jumped into the air.
Well done, Natsu,
Urza said, as she breathed a sigh of relief.
And no way, Kageyama said to himself.
He beat Aragorn-san, and he barely has a scratch on him.
Urza slowly took the SE plug off her wrist.
But she started to step off the magical four-wheeler. She suddenly clutched her throbbing head. The knight groaned and began to fall over, but Lucy quickly rushed over and grabbed her.
Urza! Are you all right?
Lucy asked, as she supported Urza.
Why yeah, don't worry about me,
Urza replied, as Lucy started to walk her towards Natsu.
I just need to catch my breath. How did you beat him so easily?
Gray asked, looking down at Aragorn's unconscious form. I figured that since my lightning could cut through his wind wall, that it could through his other attacks. Natsu explained, as he rubbed the back of his head. I guess I was right, because he couldn't land a hit on me. Well, except this one. Natsu held up his right arm, showing the large cut on his forearm. I kinda blocked his scythe with my arm, hee. Lucy, I'm fine now. You don't help me anymore. Urza said, as Lucy released her. The scarlet-haired knight made her way over to the dragon slayer with Lucy following closely behind. Hey Urza! Natsu exclaimed with a massive grin on his face. You missed it, I kicked some major ass. Instead of words of praise, Natsu received 2 harsh slaps. The stunned dragon slayer looked to see Urza and Lucy both glaring at him. What was that for? For being a reckless idiot. Lucy yelled, as she placed her hands on her hips. You had Urza and I seriously worried back there. You're lucky you figured out Aragorn's weakness. If you hadn't, you could have seriously been hurt, Natsu. The blonde could feel tears stinging the corners of her eyes. Do you know how devastated I would have been if you had been seriously hurt? We just reunited after not seeing each other for 7 years. Natsu was surprised when Lucy launched her arms around him. Natsu, you're my first and best friend. I can't lose you. I am sorry, Luz. Natsu said in a shocked tone, as he wrapped his arms around Lucy. I didn't know that I made you worry so much. Natsu released Lucy, and gave her a soft smile. I'll try to warn you before I run off to do something stupid again. That's all I ask. Lucy said, she wiped away her tears. A smile spread across her face, as she playfully punched Natsu's arm. Just let me know, so I can stop your stupid ass next time. Lucy's right, Natsu. Urza said, as she crossed her arms under her chest. The scarlet-haired woman avoided the dragon slayer's gaze. You're my best friend as well, and I was seriously worried about you. So next time you decide to run off and fight some mass-murdering asshole, please tell me. Urza clenched her fists around her arms. I should have been here to help you fight. Urza! Natsu said softly, but the knight still avoided his gaze. Please Urza, look at me. With a deep sigh, Urza relented and looked at Natsu. I'm sorry that I worried you. You're the last person that I want to worry. I know you don't want to hear this, but you were in no condition to help me. Natsu's words caused Urza to hang her head. But the dragon slayer gently cupped her chin and raised her head. Urza, please don't get yourself down. You used a lot of magical energy driving us to Ashibana and fighting those Eisenwald mages. The last thing I wanted was you to overexert yourself and get hurt. You just have to trust me to handle things on my home sometimes. All right, Natsu. Urza said, as she hugged Natsu. You really did do an amazing job. Because of you, the guild masters are safe now. Thanks, Urza. Natsu said, as he tightened the hug. Hey, since we're already here, we might as well go see Jichan. We can tell him everything that happened. That sounds like Urza was cut off when the sound of an engine roaring to life came from the fairy tale mages. All the fairy tale mages were shocked to see Kageyama behind the wheel. Kageyama, what the hell are you doing? Urza exclaimed, just as Kageyama started to race down the tracks. Natsu quickly grabbed Lucy and Urza and dove out of the vehicle's path. You were careless, flies. Kageyama laughed, as his shadow scooped up Lullaby. The flute, Lullaby, is in my hands now. Serves you right, huh? You son of a bitch. Natsu roared, as flames exploded off his body. How could he do that? Lucy yelled, as she shook her fist at Kageyama's retreating vehicle. We even saved his ungrateful ass. We're going after him. Urza growled, causing everyone to nod in agreement. Clover Town. Kageyama panted as he stepped off the magical four-wheeler. He had managed to make it where the guild masters were having their regular meeting. The shadow user breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the meeting was still going on. Good, the regular meeting isn't over yet.
Lullaby's melody can reach them without any trouble from this distance. The time has come. Kageyama was shaken from his thoughts when he felt a hand land on his shoulder. The hand then poked Kageyama's cheek.
Kageyama quickly spun around to see Makarov, master of fairy tale, sitting on the magical four-wheeler right behind him.
Wahaha! Makarov laughed as he pointed at Kageyama.
But Makarov suddenly stopped, and a look of dread spread across his face.
No, it's not time to do this. I've got to hurry up and find where Natsu, Gray, and Urza are. Otherwise a whole town might disappear. Makarov jumped off the four-wheeler and turned to Kageyama. You should go back, too. To the hospital, I mean. Makarov. He's Makarov from Fairy Tail. Kageyama thought as he began to sweat. TCH. What a day, meeting flies everywhere. Excuse me. Kageyama said timidly. HRM? Makarov said, turning back around. Would you please listen to one song?
Kageyama said, as he raised Lullaby to his lips.
The hospital won't let me play. Makarov gave Kageyama a suspicious look. I really want someone to listen to it. That's one creepy-looking flute kid. Makarov said, giving the flute a wary look.
It may look creepy, but it sounds pretty good.
Kageyama explained with a smile. I'm in a hurry. Only one song, okay? Makarov asked, wagging his finger.
Of course.
Kageyama said, as a victorious smirk spread across his face.
As Kageyama brought the flute to his lips, he remembered the words of his guildmates.
Legal guilds are all trash.
They're so weak, but they're still proud of themselves. This our revenge on the world of mages that locked us up in darkness and took away our lives. We'll kill all the guild masters around here to start. But then Kageyama remembered everything the fairy tale mages had said to him. Your rights will never be returned if you do something that awful. You should do something positive with your lives.
Kageyama. We need your help. Aren't you Nakama from the same guild?
Kageyama grit his teeth as he began to hesitate. He was having conflicting thoughts. He wanted to kill the guild masters for what they had done to his guild. But at the same time he couldn't ignore the kindness that the fairy tale mages had shown him, even though he was one of their enemies. Without them he would likely be dead. Just then Team Natsu arrived at the scene.
There he is. Ji-chan. Master. Shu.
Bob, Master of Blue Pegasus, said as he blocked the fairy tale mage's path.
The best part is coming up. Just watch. My, you two are cute. Bob said, as he eyed Natsu and Gray.
Both fairy tale mages felt their skin begin to crawl.
Who is this guy? Lucy asked with a sweat drop.
You're the Master of Blue Pegasus.
Urza said in a shocked tone. My, Urza-chan, you've grown.
Bob said, placing his hand on his face.
You too, Natsu-kun. What's going on? Hurry up and play.
Makarov said, as he started to get impatient. But Kageyama still hesitated to play the flute.
Kageyama's hands began to shake as sweat poured off his brow. No! Master, get away!
Urza exclaimed, but Goldmine stopped her.
Just stay quiet. This should be interesting.
Goldmine said with a smirk.
Now! Makarov ordered as he glared at Kageyama.
Everyone watched with bated breath as Kageyama pressed the back to his lips.
Play, I just need to play the damn thing. Everything will change after that.
Kageyama thought, as he clenched his eyes shut.
Nothing will change.
Makarov said, causing Kageyama's eyes to shoot wide open.
Weaklings will stay weak forever.
But weakness is not an evil thing, since human beings are weak creatures to begin with.
Alone you feel afraid and insecure, that's why we form guilds. That's why we have Nakama. Slowly Kageyama lowered the flute away from his mouth. We walk together in order to live a strong life.
The clumsy ones will run into more walls than others, and it may take them longer to get there. If you believe in tomorrow and put yourself out there, you can naturally obtain your strength. That's how you'll be able to smile and live strong, without having to depend on such a flute, of course. A sharp gasp escaped Kageyama's throat.
Amazing, he knew everything.
Tears fell from Kageyama's eyes, as he collapsed to his knees.
He hung his head in shame before Makarov. I admit my loss, Kageyama said, as he kneeled before Fairy Tail's master. Master!
All the Fairy Tail mages yelled, as they ran towards Makarov.
What?
Why are you guys here? Makarov exclaimed in shock, his eyes bulging.
You're amazing, Master,
Urza said, as she hugged Makarov. Your words touched me. Makarov grunted in pain, as his head thudded against Urza's armored chest.
Ji-chan, you're awesome, Natsu said with a grin, as he patted Makarov's head.
I would advise you stop doing that, Natsu, Makarov said, his eyes narrowed dangerously.
Well, I guess that settles everything,
Gray said, putting his hands in his pockets.
Lucy kneeled down next to Kageyama. An annoyed look was spread across the blonde's face.
With a huff, Lucy patted Kageyama's shoulder.
Come on, let's go see a doctor now, Lucy said, earning a weak nod from Kageyama. But suddenly everyone stopped when a menacing laugh sounded next to Kageyama.
Everyone present looked to see Lullaby oozing a thick black smoke from the skull on the end of the flute. You mages have no guts,
Lullaby said, startling everyone. I can't hold it any longer. I'll kill you all myself. The flute talked, Lucy exclaimed, fear evident in her tone. Look! The smoke is a shape.
Happy shouted, as the smoke began to take shape. Everyone watched as the smoke began to form a massive body that towered over all the mages present. The smoke then began to materialize and become solid.
What the smoke formed shocked everyone.
A massive tree-like monster with 3 glowing red eyes loomed over the mages.
This is my true form, Lullaby said with a dark chuckle. Now, let me consume your pitiful souls. It can't be, Urza said, taking a step back. A monster! Happy yelled, as he hid behind Natsu. What is that? Kageyama asked, as he stared at the monster towering over them. I didn't know anything about this. Oh my, this has gotten rather serious,
Bob said, covering his mouth with his hand.
That thing is a demon from the Book of Zirif,
Goldmine exclaimed, as he broke out in a cold sweat. I'm starving to death, so I'm gonna eat your souls,
Lullaby said, causing Natsu to growl. What? Natsu yelled, as he glared at the demon.
But then Natsu turned to Gray.
Are souls even edible? Do they taste good? How the fuck would I know? Gray yelled, as he smacked Natsu upside the head. What is going on? How could a demon come out of a flute? Lucy asked, turning to face Goldmine. That demon is Lullaby itself, meaning it's living magic,
Goldmine explained, as Lullaby began to walk towards them.
That's Zirif's magic. Living magic,
Urza said, as she glared at Lullaby.
Zirif? You're talking about the Zirif from ancient times, Gray exclaimed in shock. The dark mage Zirif, the evilest Magi in the history of magic, Bob explained, pressing a hand to his cheek.
I never thought that his works from several hundred years ago would appear.
Now, whose soul should I enjoy first? Lullaby asked itself, as it raked its 3 eyes over all the mages present.
Well, Urza, you said you wanted to fight by my side earlier, Natsu said with a smirk, cracking his knuckles.
Now's your chance. I've regained most of my magical energy, so I'm good to go,
Urza said with a nod of her head.
I've decided, Lullaby said with an evil smirk. All of yours.
The demon opened its mouth and began to produce a sickly sound.
No! That's the Lullaby,
Goldmine shouted, as he covered his ears.
Ready to go? Natsu asked Gray and Urza. Both mages nodded, causing a grin to spread across Natsu's face. Then let's fuck this demon bastard up. The three fairy tale mages launched forward towards the demon.
Urza quickly re-equipped into her Heaven's Wheel armor, and using her numerous swords, began to slash at Lullaby's legs. Lullaby attempted to smash Urza with its massive hand, but she dove to safety at the last moment. While Lullaby was distracted with Urza, Natsu was scaling up the demon's body. Don't take your eyes off your opponents. Natsu roared, as he jumped into the air above Lullaby. Fire Dragon's Claw. Natsu's flaming roundhouse kick sent the demon reeling backwards. But Lullaby quickly recovered from the attack. You impudent little fool! Lullaby roared, firing several balls of energy at Natsu. Shit! Natsu exclaimed, as he jumped out of the way. The balls of energy missed Natsu, but were now heading towards a group of bystanders. Ice make. Gray said, punching his palm. Ice magic freezing the air around him. Shield. A large flower-shaped shield appeared in front of Gray, and protected him and the bystanders. Wow! He's able to use creation magic that fast. One of the bystanders yelled in awe. Ice make lance. Dozens of spears made out of ice shoot out of Gray's hands. The razor-sharp ice spears raced towards Lullaby. When the spears hit, they took a large chunk of Lullaby's body. What destructive power! Lucy exclaimed, shocked by the strength of Gray's attack. Urza! Now! Gray yelled, as he fired another volley of ice spears. Re-equip! Black wing armor! Urza yelled, as she swapped into a new set of armor. Around Urza's neck was a neck guard decorated by several gems. Her long scarlet hair was tied up in a high ponytail, with two bangs framing her face. Her large shoulder pads, each composed of two silver-edged plates one over the other, sported silver crosses on them too, and flanked the high collar. A silver-edged breastplate revealed a fair amount of Urza's cleavage and belly, with plates flanking her hips and reaching down to her very large waistguard, composed of very long, silver-edged plates shaped like feathers and decorated by silver crosses. The waistguard left the front of Urza's body exposed, with her groin being covered by a dark garment. The slim gauntlets on her arms came equipped with prominent protection for her hands, each sporting silver patterns. The plates guarding her legs were sliver-edged on her thighs and knees, but pitch-black dark on her metal greaves. But the most noticeable feature of the armor was the large pair of wings protruding from the back. Black wing armor! A bystander exclaimed in surprise. That armor increased the user's attack power. As Urza flew towards Lullaby, Natsu once again ran up the demon's body. The demon tried to swat off the dragon slayer, but Natsu jumped into the air. Natsu growled, as flames engulfed both of his hands. With flames on my right hand, and flames on the left. Natsu slammed his hands together, causing the flames to merge together. A massive ball of fire formed over Natsu's head. Fire Dragon's brilliant flame. As Natsu's fireball shot towards Lullaby, Gray and Urza prepared their own attacks. Urza, using her enhanced attack power, cut one of Lullaby's arms clean off. Gray launched another volley of ice spears, severing part of Lullaby's abdomen. Finally, Natsu's massive fireball hit, destroying most of Lullaby's head. The demon stood for a few moments, before it fell to the ground, its body a smoking heap. Excellent! Makarov said, as he watched the demon fall. Lullaby collapsed, crushing the building where the masters were holding their regular meeting. Ziraf's demon defeated fairly easily. Booba Baba-sama, guild master of Lamia Scale, said as she gazed at the fairy tale mages. I'm quite impressed. Lucy couldn't help the massive smile that spread across her face, as she watched her nakama emerge from the smoke. Natsu, Urza, and Gray stood triumphantly amongst Lullaby's remains. They're incredible. Especially Natsu and Urza. This is truly Fairy Tale's strongest team. Lucy cheered, as she clapped her hands together. What do you guys think? Aren't they great? Makarov yelled, as he jumped in the air. You guys are the best. Lucy exclaimed, as she ran up to the three mages.
Especially you, Natsu. That last move you pulled was amazing. And Urza, that armor was so cool. It was nothing. Natsu and Urza said simultaneously, as they bumped fists. I'm here too, you know. Gray said with a frown. Oh, you were awesome too, Gray. Lucy said in an embarrassed tone. TCH, whatever. Gray said, as he shoved his hands in his pockets. Kageyama felt tears form in his eyes, as he watched the victorious fairy tale mages celebrate. Seeing the camaraderie between the mages made Kageyama regret his past choices. However, Kageyama yelled in pain when he was suddenly embraced by Bob. Now you have to see a doctor, Bob said, as he scratched Kageyama's chin. A shiver ran down the shadow user's spine. Right? I have no idea why this happened, but we owe Fairy Tale one. Goldmine said with a grin. Don't worry about it. Ha ha. Makarov cheered, with a massive smile on his face. But the smile instantly disappeared, as Makarov saw the destruction that lay behind everyone. The regular meeting site was completely destroyed. Makarov's eyes widened, as he began to sneak away from everyone. It was then that the rest of the fairy tale mages noticed the destruction as well. Urza and Lucy quickly covered their mouths to hide their squeaks of surprise. The regular meeting site has crumbled to dust. Goldmine yelled, as his mouth hung open. Ha ha! We completely wrecked that place. Natsu laughed with his hands on his hips. I've done way worse though. Get them! The Peter Guild masters yelled, as they chased after the fairy tale mages. Master, we're really sorry, Urza said, as she grabbed Natsu. The knight pulled the dragon slayer along, as they ran away from the mob of angry guild masters. We've disgraced you. Ah, don't worry about it, Makarov said, as he dodged a throw object. I don't think they'll invite me back next time. Ah ha ha. I love this guild, Natsu exclaimed with a gleeful smile, as he ran ahead of everyone. Come on, Urza, Lucy, we have to hurry back and tell everyone how much ass we kicked. Sounds like a plan to me, Lucy said with a smile, as she ran after Natsu, giggling the whole way. It will be nice to tell Mira about what happened, Urza said with a smile, as she picked up her pace. Back at Fairy Tale. Whatcha got there, Mira? Elfman asked, as he walked up to the bar. Oh, it's a book I borrowed from Levy, Mira Jane answered, as she adjusted her glasses. What's the book about? Elfman asked, his interest now sparked. It's about dragons and Dragon Slayer, Mira replied, as she flipped a page. Ha! Elfman said, as he leaned over the bar so that he could see what Mira was reading. What he saw caused him to raise an eyebrow. Dragon mating and its relation to dragon slayers? Why would you be reading about that? Oh, I was just curious about something, Mira replied with an innocent smile. There was some very interesting stuff in here. I'll have to have a chat with Lucy when she gets back. If the both of us work together, maybe we'll be able to convince Urza. That wraps up this part of What If Natsu Had Dual Elements. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.